recording.
All right, and we're live. Tell your friends you're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon,
And I'm Nathan.
and we have another very special episode. We have the 1976 movie Rocky, the original. Came out
Yes.
December 3rd, 1976. Another Christmas movie, which is like, I think it's our third December movie in this whole section, which is not intentional, but hey, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Which I picked this because I've never actually seen Rocky all the way through. I've seen bits and pieces of it just like everybody else. I've seen literally every other Rocky movie because they had a marathon that like back in like TBS or whatever run a marathon. I end up seeing 2 through 5. And then I've also seen Rocky Balboa. I've seen Creed, but I haven't seen Creed 2 or Creed 3, but I hear both of those are good, so
Yeah.
just got to go see it sometime. Nathan, do you have a history with Rocky?
I have seen this movie clear through a couple times, but it had been probably 15 years since I watched it all the way through again.
Yeah.
So I was familiar with it, but always as a passive observer and not as someone who was like, oh, I got to watch the movie and get stuff out of it. So yeah, this time was almost like a first viewing for me, even though it wasn't. I always just assumed I knew things about the movie and it was just kind of in the background. This time I watched it and it's like, oh yeah, this is why this was one of the best movies ever made. It's like, okay, I get that now. I really wasn't paying attention that much before. So
also everything like I think that's streamed into like the cultural conscious is more like the last half hour of this movie. Almost never the first hour and a half is never really like talked about or shown because it's like here's Rocky at his worst. It's like we don't want to see that. And I was waiting for the whole like where they make Rocky chase a chicken around. I was like, oh, that must be in number 2 because that totally doesn't happen here.
no, this is a lot more basic and straightforward. What I was thinking about when I was watching this is like, we journey into the lower middle class, working class hell of Rocky because that's like kind of what his world was at this time.
Yeah.
It's also what America was in like 1976.
And Sylvester Stallone, what he did he did like TV, and he was in a Roger Corman movie, Death Race 2000. That's what Sylvester Stallone did. That he wrote this movie, sold himself as the star, and it became a huge hit.
Yeah. Massive hit.
And so yeah, he has a really interesting career because the only other people I can think of that did something like that was Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, where they wrote themselves into a movie that got Oscar worthy, and then they became stars after that. But you really wouldn't think of Sylvester Stallone, the action hero, as a guy who wrote himself into Hollywood, because usually you think of like, oh, he must have huge brains, which Sylvester Stallone's a clever guy, but you wouldn't necessarily think of him as like the smartest guy in the world.
Yeah. He was an ambitious guy.
Yeah.
Say that. He was ambitious to get into entertainment. And and his mom helped him with that too.
Oh, okay. But yeah, after this he did like try to get into like more serious stuff, because I think after this he does Fist, which is a Joe Esterhaus written movie where he's like plays like a head of a trucker union, and then he like dies at the end of the movie.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. Okay.
And then but Sylvester Stallone didn't like that he died at the end of the movie, because he's just like, nobody wants to watch Rocky die, and he was pretty much right. But also it means like, well, you can't do serious movies then if everyone's worried about Rocky dying.
Yeah, this isn't a movie about Rocky. You gotta go Daniel Day-Lewis and really inhabit the role.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure he like thought himself as Dustin Hoffman, where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna play all these different roles, but really, he's just Rocky in every. He's just a different degree of Rocky in every movie. But I mean, I don't know.
He was in Clute when we watched that too. He had a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, so bit that like he doesn't even. I don't even think his face showed up in the movie, but. But but he was also a guy, he did try a bunch of different stuff, but really he kind of like fell back on his franchises, which seems like more modern, like an actor profile or whatever, where it's like, we're going to try some things, but we're always going to like be safe with our our Marvel franchise movies or whatever.
Yeah.
Because he gets he actually has like a lot of weird franchises. No other reason, but he kind of always would try to escape away from Rocky and then always came back to it. And then he had Rambo, which was kind of like a more serious. I mean, I guess Rocky's still a serious character, but like the movies later on are just more like tongue in cheek. Like,
Yeah. I mean, First Blood was a very serious movie,
yeah,
mainly based around the performance of Brian Dennehy, with Sylvester Stallone being like, yeah, I'm the psychotic war veteran. Like he did a great job as John Rambo, but yeah, but then after that, it like, well,
the
Rambo,
world's most powerful victim.
yeah, yeah. Then after that, it was just nuts.
um, but then he does the Expendables, which seems like, oh, this will be a great idea, and they're all pretty much terrible and unwatchable.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this could be cool. This is like a 80s, hero roundup. And I
Yeah.
watched one of them. I was like, no, this isn't, I don't know what people are getting out of this. I'm not getting it.
And then he has like this kind of like quiet, like straight to DVD, or maybe it made theaters franchise of the Escape Plan franchise.
Yeah, they were in theaters, but not, I remember them more as like things you watched on DVD later.
Yeah. And it's him and Arnold getting together for one of those, and like, yeah, there's three of them, and I haven't watched one. They're all are poorly rated.
Yeah, they're not, they seem like cool ideas. And well, it's kind of like, oh, he did one, and this was probably late 80s, early 90s, where it was him and Kurt Russell. It was like a cop buddy movie.
Oh, Tango and Cash, yeah.
Yeah, but it's sort of like, is this 48 Hours?
Yeah.
Wasn't as good as 48 Hours, but the actors were, him
Yeah.
and Kurt Russell were great, but the story sucked.
Yeah,
But it was
yeah.
like, they were fun to see together.
Oh yeah, Tango and Cash is definitely a movie I thought was cool as a kid, especially like you have that SUV with like Gatling guns on it. It's like awesome, but you watch it as an adult, like this is terrible.
Yeah, it's like, wow, they had great actors that almost seem confused by what's going on around.
Oh, there's another series one, I think it's called like Nighthawks, where it's like Sylvester Stallone is chasing Rutger Hauer around. He's like a serial killer or something like that. Like you watch a trailer, I was like, oh, this could be good, but I don't know.
Was that the one where they're like terrorists and then like
Yeah.
Rutger Hauer's just a killer and then Billy D. Williams is like his partner or
Yeah,
whatever?
yeah.
Okay. And like the lady from the motion picture Star Trek was in it, and yeah, okay. I don't remember that being great,
Okay.
but I haven't seen it.
I mean, I don't know. It just seemed like the ingredients, like that could be good. I don't know if it is or not. And of course you got Cobra, which never. Oh wait, no, is it Cobra? Wait, yeah. Yeah. He's called Cobretti, yeah, which feels like that should have been a franchise, but never took off.
No, it's like one of those things where it's like there's really cool scenes in it, but overall it's dumb. It's like, what the hell is? Because I think like one of his coolest and it was because it was sci-fi, was Demolition Man.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, he was fine and the ideas were cool, but it just never hung together.
Yeah.
But it looked very cool.
I think that one's actually aged well, because now it's like, it's so ridiculous that now it's like fine, because like,
well, yeah,
it's 90s ridiculous, but like some of the crazy ideas have now don't seem so crazy anymore.
It's like, oh yeah, they're trying to neuter us. It's like they definitely want you to have joy feelings and wipe your ass with a seashell, which I never understood. Yeah, I can see that. It's like, yeah, Taco Bell will be the only one. And then, of course, never forget Judge Dredd, which like was Armand Asante's like great role, where he just played a background character of Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
Asante like took the movie over.
Yeah, that pretty much derailed Stallone's career until like Copland, where he kind of like, which wasn't a huge movie, but it was like more of him doing this. He's doing a character. He's this kind of somber, schlubby sheriff who's letting people walk over him.
Yeah.
and the cops are the bad guys.
Yeah. Who else was in that? Like,
it's like Ray Liotta
and Keitel and
okay,
yeah, Ray Liotta and
but then Cliffhanger which is just before Demolition Man was like that was a huge movie.
Yeah, that was actually a cool movie too.
I don't think
remember
I don't think I've actually seen that all the way through, but that was a movie that made like $400 million. It's like, oh wow.
it was a good evil John Lithgow performance.
Yeah.
Kind of a callback to Buckaroo Banzai in a way, like kind of the same energy, but he was like some kind of, you know, terrorist or bank robber or something.
Yeah, they're robbing an airplane full of money or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's something.
Or money ended up in an airplane that they had to wreck and discover on the side of a mountain or something. I can't remember the details of it. Yeah, this is no, I have that written down wrong. Directed by John G. Alvedson.
Alvidson. John G. Alvidson.
Which his other claim to fame is Karate Kid, so that totally makes sense. But feels like he probably should have got like much bigger movies off this. He won Best Director for this movie. By the way, this also won Best Picture, not Best Screenplay or Best Acting, because it was going up against Network and All President's Men.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
But it still won Best Picture, which is like crazy versus those movies, I think. I don't know. Like, this almost seems like, oh, a popular vote finally got through. I don't know. Because I remember I was saying, like, you know, Star Wars was such a huge movie that like kind of got pushed through the Oscars, but then like it only won like the effects awards, and like everyone's like, I really should have won Best Picture, but never gonna happen. So,
well, one of the things I'll tell you about Alvidson is he was also supposed to direct. I think it was Serpico, and there was another big movie in the 70s, and he got fired because he just couldn't agree with any of the production people,
oh,
the
okay.
producers. So he was I don't know, but I'm guessing he was like, because it's like, oh, if you're gonna helm Serpico and then your replacement is Sidney Lumet, okay, so you're obviously a good director, but you're just probably very hard to work with.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm guessing. I could only guess.
Yeah. Then cinematographer is James Crabe or Crabe. I'm not sure. Probably Crabe. He worked with Alvinson pretty much a lot. I think on all his movies, and then he would spin off and do some comedies and stuff like he did. You know, Police Academy 2, but he also shot like the China Syndrome. So that's one
he did. China Syndrome, Night Shift, The Karate Kid.
Yeah, he did all the Karate Kids. Well, no, it looks like he didn't do 3, but so I guess he didn't work with Al because Alvinson did all the Karate Kids, except for I don't think he did the next Karate Kid. But,
no. I mean, he won an Academy Award, won all kinds of Emmys.
Huh.
Died relatively young. Died at 57.
Oh, yeah.
Never even made it to the 90s.
Oh yeah. I guess that's why he didn't shoot Karate Kid Part 3 then. So that makes sense.
It's a little bit hard.
Of course, written by Sylvester Stallone. Yeah, I didn't look at any trivia for this stuff. I remember like the lore around this is that he saw like a boxing match between I might have been Muhammad Ali, I can't remember, but he's fighting some guy, and basically he like the match. He saw the match unfold where it's like this guy is still lost, but he took Muhammad Ali or somebody I can't remember to 15 rounds, and then so it was kind of a win for him even though he lost. And that was sort of like what this one boxer's claim to fame was, where like he wasn't a knockout artist, he's a very defensive boxer, and he took people like the full length, and that made people uncomfortable, but he was like, you know, vaguely a successful boxer for it because he wasn't just somebody you just knocked out. He didn't have a glass jaw or anything like that. So
yeah, he was just yeah. Supposedly, I mean, I guess they settled out of court with whoever this was supposed to be the story of.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because Stallone did that because he was asked about it later. He's like, well, I didn't steal his ideas or his. I mean, it's like it's similar stuff, but this was actually based on Rocky. Like the name was Rocky
Marciano. Yeah,
Marciano is like it was kind of like supposed to be his spirit in this underdog story, and you know there was some similarities between this and this guy's fighting, but you settle with them out of court so that when you do things like make sequels, they can't come back at you because it's like you've settled. This is what I heard why a lot of like James Cameron basically said that's why I settled with Harlan Ellison. I didn't want this guy coming back and suing me time and time and time again. So it's like, okay, here's your money. Thanks. You've proved your point. And now I get to make $1 billion and be the best director in the universe. So okay, you got me, Harlan. So yeah, I have figured out finally just by doing research on. I mean, I don't. This was also said in this case, but I found out like a lot of times people settle. It's not because they're admitting guilt. It's because it's like, oh, I got franchise rights, and I'm not giving this guy 10% of that the rest of my life. So that's what happens.
They'll take a check now, and then I get all the checks later. Which, yeah, again, that's like this is 70. Like thinking forward into franchises isn't necessarily something that people are doing.
No. Well, I mean, Stallone's pretty smart because he got like 10% of the back end of this film, in addition to selling them a script that they had to 90% rewrite, and getting, what was he getting?
Oh, did this have a bunch of ghostwriters on it?
Oh yeah. It was a totally different kind of script when it got, which is normal. It's like that's. I mean, he didn't sell the script for much. I think he sold it for like $15,000.
Yeah.
But he also sold himself.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I'm going to be the star, and I'm going to help rework the script, and I'm going to get 10% of the back end of a movie they were going to spend $1 million on, and thought they were going to make maybe 10 million. It's like, cool. And then he ends up making like $20 million. It's like, so yeah, he is a smart guy in that respect. Or he just fell backward into it. I don't know. But yeah, he seems like a pretty focused guy.
I mean, he also had it like, he had to have the body for it. He wasn't just anybody. He worked at that too. So you can see the hard work that went into everything.
Oh yeah, it's like him and Schwarzenegger are kind of like a strange mirror of like kind of self-made guys who only play to their strengths.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I have weaknesses, but we're only talking about my strengths because my strengths are huge. Like I am a massive dude. So, and also being smart and shrewd enough to like be entertaining too.
But that's kind of weird because Arnold didn't really get into franchises. I mean, he had like the Terminator movies, and that was it.
No, Arnold was on a different level. Like he was always kind of his own thing.
Yeah.
Because I think he's like tremendously intelligent. He's not just like, oh, he's a muscle-bound guy that's pretty smart. I think he's like really, really smart. I think he made more money in business than acting.
So. Oh yeah. I mean, that's
and he was the governor of California.
Yeah. But it's like like Magic Johnson. He's like basically like a billionaire because of his business decisions, and he's still alive because when he got HIV, you thought, well, that's a death sentence. He's still kicking around and seems to be doing quite well. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a death sentence, unless you're like a super athlete who understands like health and wellness and also has money to like, I'll try the crazy treatment. Sure. $100,000 a shot. Well, I'm good for 10 years of that. So let's go.
Or even look at like Shaq's really savvy, and he's like also like near a billionaire, almost a billionaire. And like, he did have some kind of like stock in Papa John's, and they just like roll him in and give him even more stock after that guy, like gets caught saying awful things in a phone call because they wanted to trial run him saying awful things. So now he's the face of Papa John's.
Yeah. And also the Papa John, the original, that guy was a complete asshole.
Yeah.
It's like you hear that and it's like, oh, they set him up, and I'm like, yeah, they did. Good.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying. I mean, I'm saying the situation's weird. I'm not saying they should have kept the guy, or I feel any ill will towards him.
People act like he got railroaded. It's like, oh no, yeah, he got railroaded. He still lives in a mansion. He still got a new Bugatti every year. He's fine. Don't you worry your pretty little head about him.
Of course, the cast is Sylvester Stallone, Talia Shire, and Burt Young.
Yep.
And some other people. Of course, we'll have Carl Weathers come up. So.
Just Meredith.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of seems weird. It's like this movie's like completely centered around Sylvester Stallone, and he loses all the Oscars, but like everything else wins it. And it's like, is that a bad look for him? It's like, ultimately, no. It's like, it's an honor just to be nominated and given millions of dollars.
Yeah, there's a funny like cartoon, I think, where it shows like all the people with their Oscars, and it just has a like a caricature of Sylvester Stallone with bags of money. Like, I want to. And I get to have like a 50-year action star career. So cool.
He's still acting. He's got the Tulsa King. He's like almost in his 80s, and he's still doing.
It still looks cool as hell. Like
Yeah.
most 25-year-olds would like to look that cool. And he's like, yeah, he's almost 80.
I mean, yeah, he's doing all the magic drugs, and he's got scientists behind that. But that's what you get to do when you have money and time to do that. So
It's weird. Like his son died really young of like a blocked artery.
oh, okay. Huh.
It wasn't drugs or anything. It was just like, I don't know, just the
Aneurysm or whatever. Or
no, it was like how old people have hardening and blocking of the arteries from
okay.
eating butter or something, or whatever causes that. Whatever caused that, I don't know. I'm gonna find out pretty soon.
His daughter did some acting. She has like a podcast that sometimes he's on, and I think they even have a reality series. I think.
Well, I know his mom was like a promoter of some kind. That's weird because I like his mom was like her ancestry is like she's a Ukrainian Jew.
Huh.
And it's like, oh, I thought like Sylvester Stallone was just like Italian through and through. It's like, no, his dad was. And it's like, huh, that's weird. I never guessed that, but yeah. So like, they kind of have entertainment and promotion in their background. So that's probably why he was savvy enough to make this work.
And like even you think it would work against him having kind of that weird voice, but it's like it's so distinct that it does work, and now that's his thing. It's like nobody else talks like that.
Oh, no one could act and play this character better than he played it. Like no one could come in and like, hey, I'm gonna act like this. Like no one would do that. That's just how he is, and it works perfectly. That's why when he was selling the script, is like, well, we gotta have this guy because this is the guy in the script. We can't train someone to be this good. And I guess like part of his face was paralyzed from an accident.
Yeah, that's why
something.
even when if you do the voice like, hey, oh, right, you kind of just let one of your lips droop because that kind of gets the voice because one side of his face is slightly paralyzed. It's like, that's how you get the voice. You just gotta drop one lip and you talk like it.
That's amazing that a guy can deliver dialogue like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even he's playing it up sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you can see like other roles where he's trying to do something different and he kind of basically sounds normal.
Yeah.
I mean, he still kind of has that thing, but even that Arnold does the same thing where it's like he's been in America so long that really he has an American, slightly Austrian accent. But because he's Arnold Schwarzenegger, he has his own accent that he plays up because that's just what people expect out of him.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've heard him give like political speeches and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, okay, that guy's obviously like was born in another country, but he's been here a long time." So yeah.
And he's gotten older, so his voice has probably changed, and so now it's even like he has to force that. He has to be a character of himself because it isn't natural anymore.
Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of looks surprised all the time now. It's always like this. I don't know if that's like Botox or if that's just
maybe, I don't know. He's got a new book out. I haven't read it. It's basically a self-help book, but it's kind of funny because he wanted like 10 steps to like make yourself a better person or something like that, but he changed it to 8 because if it got in a certain page number, then it would be cheaper and more accessible to people. So
that's cool. I would love to hear Sylvester Stallone and like Anthony Hopkins like do Shakespeare because it would be so wildly different and cool at the not to mock anyone. It would just be amazing to see those two guys like just do a scene. Doesn't have to be a whole movie, but just that would be kind of cool because they're roughly the same age. Yeah, and they kind of. I think Anthony Hopkins is a little older, but yeah, it would be because Anthony Hopkins like is the guy that does that kind of dialogue.
Yeah,
and Sylvester Stallone is the action guy who is it would be interesting to see how they would.
Yeah, you just give Sylvester Stallone less dialogue and cover him in more blood.
Yeah.
So we got Act 1. We get title scrolling from screen right. We get Rocky's theme Gonna Fly Now. Uh, which I don't think I've ever looked up the lyrics, but I had the subtitles on for this, and it was like, oh, this is so on the nose.
Yeah, I think it was written for the movie, wasn't
Yeah, I
it?
think so.
Okay,
Yeah. uh, but yeah, and there ends up being like probably more of the of course the Eye of the Tiger, but I don't think that comes into like Rocky 4 or something like that. But it's a franchise
right.
full of great themes. Um, we get more title. We get titles on screen. November 25th, 1975, Philadelphia. We fade into Jesus on the Wall, which I don't know what to read into that other than I guess it's a boxing match at a church, and I don't know if that's meant to be like
Yeah, I was trying to like in my mind like what is the deeper symbol of that, but I think it's just supposed to be jarring that it's like, well, here's Jesus, and then foreground two people beating the hell out of each other.
yeah.
It's like that doesn't seem very Jesus like, but it's supposed to show it's like, well, this is where they could rent the space to have the fight. Like, so this is the kind of fight it is.
We got a boxing match with Rocky, of course, being played by Sylvester Stallone. Rocky Balboa is his name. Yep. We get the crowd booing. I'm not sure who they're booing. They kind of boo when Rocky, like, will hold the other boxer because they just want straight punching the whole time. So they don't like when he holds the other boxer to keep him from fighting.
Yeah.
I forget what that's called. That has like a specific name, but
Isn't that called? Yeah, you could take
like
everything
clinching or whatever.
You could take everything I know about boxing and put it in a thimble, and I could still fit in the thimble.
Yeah,
so I have no idea.
Oh yes, yeah, and then Rocky's taking a beating, but he keeps grabbing his opponent. He finally gets some Rocky finally gets some punches in before the bell rings. His quarterman says he's fighting like a bum, which is like a constant, like this is the worst thing that you can be called throughout this movie. It was like this is like a PG movie, so it's like that's a good like fill where it's like we're not going to put a bunch of swear words in this, so bum's a good word.
This is we got to get the crowds in. This is not how the people talk. Bailey's excited. Stacy's home.
Some guy, there's like, while he's in the corner, some guy like talks to Rocky, like, "Hey, Rocky, you think you're gonna stand up?" He's like, "Yeah, I should." He's like, then he goes and makes a bet, which I don't know, this feels weird. I guess you're trying to get an inside line to make your bet, but yeah, you got to do what you got to do. So.
Yeah, it's like I'm going to be a bug in the guy's ear, and it's going to affect the outcome of the fight because degenerate gambling is always fun.
Yeah, which that is a constant thing. I mean that happened in boxing movies before this, where it's like throwing the match for mob people. Totally expecting that to happen. Never happens in the entire Rocky franchise. But you always think, is that going to be a thing that happens? And it doesn't.
Is he going to throw the fight for money? That's really not the Rocky ethos, though.
No.
Because really, Rocky's like key is being able to just to be a tree trunk for someone else to punch until exhaustion.
Yeah,
and that's kind of his game.
Yeah, I mean that's always his thing. Is he has heart. Like he can stay in a fight, and he can kind of rebound, but he can't not. He doesn't knock people out. He's not Mike Tyson. He doesn't have like that super punch that can put everybody out in 8 seconds. Like he's the guy who makes the match boring and might win it because it goes goes to a decision rather than a knockout. Which people hate that. Which that's actually what boxers are supposed to do. Like a boxer is somebody who keeps their hands up, blocks, and then takes their opportunities, and like. That gets really boring. Because I remember they had that was it Conor McGregor versus what was the guy? Mayweather. I think it's Mayweather.
Floyd Mayweather, yeah.
Yeah, and he was a boxer. Like what he did was he took people to decision, and people didn't land a lot of punches on him, and he landed only if he landed all he needed, and he'd win every match. That's how he went undefeated. And when he fought no, I just said the guy
Conor
McGregor. I was trying to say McConnor. Like, who's that? He fought McGregor. Like, yeah, that's how he just frustrated Conor McGregor, and then like McGregor had to like keep himself from trying to like kick him because he's not in an MMA match.
Right. Yeah. It's like you can't do a kick on him. Yeah. Which they said like that was the restriction for the fight because
Well, it wasn't an MMA. Well, you don't kick in boxing, but like he's an
yeah, that was the
he's an
thing. It's
MMA.
like you're not doing any of that ground stuff with
Yeah.
Floyd Mayweather. Now, who's the other guy? Now, yeah, because Mayweather was like a technical guy, but then like wasn't Manny Pacquiao another one of those like just roundhouse guys?
What do you mean?
Where he just knocked people the hell out. Like
I can't remember. Like yeah,
I thought he was a knockout guy.
maybe, but he was on.
I only think of that because Daniel Tosh like I'm gonna let Manny Pacquiao punch me, and it's like thought it was a good idea. Really did. Like, oh my god.
Well, he was more of a lower weight guy. So like, usually like boxing revolves around the heavyweights championships because that's where the biggest meanest punches come from. But I feel like modern boxing, a lot of it people appreciate the lower weight classes because it's more technical and interesting, and people throw lots of punches and get way bloodier. So, yeah, I don't know where boxing is now because MMA is so huge. You'd figure like boxing doesn't exist anymore, but boxing still. I mean, technically, it should because what this movie like kind of like hangs things on, and there was also a movie that was like very cynical in its title and what it was doing is later on they kind of a movie is that's kind of be the opposite of it called The Great White Hope, where it's like people aren't interested in boxing anymore because there's no white boxers that are good.
Yeah.
And so we need a white guy to win, whether he's good or not, because then it'll bring attention to the sport and bring us more money. And like literally, there's now a white heavyweight boxer, and nobody cares. Tyson Fury. No, he's like
South African or something.
No, they call him the Gypsy King. I think he's just British. He's Tyson Fury.
Oh, okay.
I think he's still the heavyweight championship or has one of them or something. But he is a white guy that is technically a champion right now, and nobody cares. Well, I mean, enough people care. He's still a millionaire, so what are you gonna? Let's see here. Oh yeah, so we get back in the fight. The fighter headbutts Rocky, which I don't know. That never seems like a great idea.
Yeah, it's not.
Because I feel like you're leaving your face open to get punched, and now you're using your face as a weapon. It's like that's not the. But I guess your face is a harder than the gloves, so maybe that's the thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like bashing two stones together, and you're just basing like, well, I hope the structural cohesion of my skull is better than his.
Yeah. Well, I think you're supposed to aim your skull for their nose, because so that's putting soft against your hard.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense.
Rather than what it looks like in most movies, where it's like you're just bashing two skulls together, and it's like, well, you should both be losing that one.
Congratulations, you both have a concussion.
Yeah, that's funny because there's literal studies about because people think, oh, we got to put gloves on because this bare knuckle boxing is barbaric. And it actually turns out that bare knuckle boxing is safer than regular boxing.
It stops a lot sooner. You're only taking a few of those shots. It's like, okay.
Well, also because you'll break your hands.
Yeah.
Before you'll break your opponent essentially, and where the gloves just allow people to punch forever. Or it's like, yeah, it's softer technically.
Yeah.
But then the whole sweet science comes in, and it's like, what body motion do you need to put into a punch? And then it's like, all boxing is about like how you can put all of your weight, swivel your hips and put all that weight and power into one punch and just totally knock someone the hell out.
We have squishmallows here. Share them with the audience. Oh, look at his flashlight down there. These are cute, honey. All right. So we have all
right, so yeah, the boxer headbutts Rocky, and this just Rocky has a cut over his eye, and this just pisses off Rocky, and then he basically just punches his opponent into the rope, keeps punching him while he's on the ground, but the ref, I think this actually would be a disqualification for Rocky, but the ref declares Rocky the winner. So
Well, yeah, headbutting him is also a disqualifying event.
yeah.
So I
So
think
yeah.
it's like, okay, yeah, you take a few shots. All right, all right.
I mean, you can see this isn't like the most professional league here. So
Yeah.
Rocky bums a smoke from somebody and then gets called a bum. So it's like, is that for the smoke or just because you think he's a bad boxer, even though he won the match?
Yeah.
He's smoking in the locker room. This is where you see the Italian stallion robe. Which I'm guessing this is probably the genius of this movie, especially at the time, because you have a combination of boxing's huge with Muhammad Ali, and then also America's fascination with the mob and Italian people with the Godfather franchise, and this is
Oh
like
yeah.
somehow just merges both of those together.
Absolutely. Yeah.
um,
And also kind of the ultimate American mythology as the movie unfolds is like, well, anyone can be anything, if
yeah.
they just try hard. Actually, effort is a part of the movie, but like, no, luck is a much bigger component.
No, I mean they even state that outright. It's like, why does Rocky get chosen? Because he had the best like name for himself. Like he didn't
Yep.
get picked because he was good. He got picked because Apollo Creed wanted a white guy, the whitest white guy, to represent America that he could fight.
Yep.
He's like, this guy's called the Italian Stallion. Like, this is going to be huge.
Yeah. So it was, but it's always America loves the underdog story.
Oh, yeah.
Because America always casts itself like, we're the underdog, that won World War II. It's like, oh yeah, we're also like the largest industrial colossus on the planet. And we weren't like connected by land to any of these places, so we had to use that might to build a lot of ships. But it's like, we were the underdogs technically, right? It's like, oh, okay. I guess.
We also needed Russia to throw themselves into a wood chipper for so long to get that
Yeah, well, we
advantage.
don't talk about, it's but we also all single-handedly, well, except for some Australians and British, we fought the Japanese
Yeah.
in a war the Russians couldn't fight because the naval war was like ungodly expensive, prohibitively expensive to fight. With you were destroying hundreds of millions of dollars of machinery a day. Like the Russians couldn't do that. Not a good naval tradition in Russia.
So yeah, Rocky's smoking in the locker room. Spider is his opponent, and he tells Rocky he got lucky. The promoter comes in and gives Spider $14. Rocky gets the winner purse of $65, but after club fees, he only gets $40.
Yep.
Which I don't know what that is in $70. I feel like that's a decent payday, but also you took a beating to get a day's worth of pay. So it's like,
you just got in a car wreck for $40, and even if that's like $200 today, or even $500 today, it's like, huh? Doesn't seem like none of these guys are doing great. And then he's told maybe in a couple weeks he'll get another fight. He's like,
yeah,
he's going to stretch $40 that far, but no, he's not. There's another part of his life too.
Also, later on, they use a phrase which I only know from an episode of Bob's Burger, where he calls himself a ham and egger, meaning like these guys do a boxing match and then they get fed ham and eggs at the end of it, not paid.
Yeah.
Which in the Bob's Burgers episode, there's like a rip-off Rocky that everybody gets like weirdly behind, and it's just called ham and egger. But then that reminds me of wrestling, where often there's an often phrase of like getting paid in wrestling, calling a hot dog and a handshake, where it's like, you don't get paid for being a wrestler, you get a hot dog and a handshake. It's like, thanks for showing up. It's like, man, what are the economics behind this? And then recently there's a Netflix docu-series called The Wrestlers, where they follow like an independent wrestling league throughout and it's like pretty amazing. But then some of the economics seep through, and it's like, oh man, that just seems so sad.
This is like combines the worst elements of indentured servitude and desperation and physical trauma.
Yeah, Yeah, that's the thing. Like in any wrestling match, you can like get paralyzed at any moment for any slip, and like these guys don't have health insurance nor regular jobs.
Yeah.
I guess some of them do, but like there's this one guy like they're calling him in for a match, and it's like it's gonna be a big match, and they call in James Storm. James Storm isn't necessarily a guy that you should know, but he's been on WWE, he's been on TNA, like he's literally been on television for over a decade. So like people know him essentially.
Okay.
And they're like, all right, and then the promoter's like, how much it's gonna cost, and they reveal that his day rate is $800. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, that's. I mean, for one day of work, that's cool, but it's still a wrestling match for anything can happen.
Yeah, that's not a good entertainment rate actually. Because you're not doing community theater. You're
Yeah.
some dangerous stuff's going to be happening.
And I'm like, Jesus Christ, we should just hire this guy to be on the podcast to get more out of him.
Come on and tell stories. I'll pay $800 for an hour. You won't even have to jump off of turnbuckles. It's going to be the most amazing hour of our lives.
And that's like a known guy. Like people know him. He should have like a big day. But there's even stuff where you see like when they have like, WrestleMania, like all the independent wrestling leagues will come to town and just have like side wrestling things going on, and all the fans coming to WrestleMania, they'll go to all the side events, and people will wrestle like fucking 16 matches over the weekend. It's like, cool, you made $5,000, but now you're like nearly paralyzed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, now you have a lifelong addiction to painkillers. Well, anything I've learned from like like the Joe Rogan experience with the comedians and stuff, like just listening to those stories. Anything involving entertainment is like, you got to chew through a yard of shit before you get to anything resembling a payday.
Yeah.
And then everyone's always like, oh, these actors and these people are such assholes. It's like, well, when you realize how they've been treated until they were successful, it's like, of course they are. They hate everyone by the time they get there because everyone's either screwed them over, lied to them, or people on the same level as they are so vicious. Like, I can't wait to destroy these people so I can be successful. And these were people that were like supposedly friends at one point. That's like, that really screws with your head.
Oh yeah, everyone's a friend in Hollywood until you realize nobody's a friend in Hollywood.
Well, then what's weird is like when people are successful, you'd think you'd be happy for like, oh, good, my friend's successful. Maybe if I'm a decent guy, like I could be a co-star. So maybe I could be, not the 1% of people that make it big doing this, but maybe the 5% of people that ever go into this that can at least make a living doing it, like have a normal house and but I'm an actor. It's like, no, we must immediately attack them, vindictively, like destroy their work and attack them personally. And it's like, that's so weird.
Well, yeah, well, everyone thinks that everyone's taking their job, and so like nobody helps each other. There's no like, hey, let's build this bond, we're gonna be actors together. It's like, no way, man. You're taking my job at every moment.
Yeah. When you hear about that, it's like, oh yeah, boy, entertainment is something we all know, whatever it is, whether it's sports, fighting, movies, TV, books, even. It's like, yeah, we all are touched by some kind of entertainment. When you find out the dark heart of it, it's like, oh, my job seems nice by comparison. All I got to do is break rocks. I don't have to worry about a lot of treachery. It's like, damn. So everyone's like, oh, I wish I could be that person. It's like, what, and be alone and have no friends? Like, oh, wasn't Elvis cool? It's like, yeah, he was, until he drugged himself to death because everyone in his life betrayed him. It's like, that's the sad part of it. The guy owned a jet and he was sad as hell. It's like, that's weird.
Although it feels like Taylor Swift has figured it out, as far as we know.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah.
She has celebrity friends. She's a billionaire, and everyone loves her except for conservatives because they think she's gonna single-handedly tank the Republican Party.
She's only gonna do entertainment in like red states to swing all the youth vote to the Democrats. It's like, yeah, because young people want to vote for Republicans. The way their life's looking, it's like, yeah, these Republicans, they're really the truth. Speaking of Republicans, Sylvester Stallone, very conservative.
Yeah.
Did not endorse Trump, though, as I understand.
Oh, okay, good. I mean, yeah, I mean, all those action guys are like Schwarzenegger is, uh, Bruce Willis is, yeah.
Well, again, like I've said before, if I had their money, I probably would be too. There would be a reason at that point. I could then afford to be a Republican. If I
Yeah.
had $1 billion, it's like I'm definitely a Republican. It makes sense. I have the money now. I can be a Republican. Only once you reach that point, though. At any point, which is why that party should not, ever be in power because only billionaires should vote for it.
You know, sometimes actors are stupid, so I wonder if they just like fell into their character, into their politics. Because I remember um, like Sigourney Weaver, like she like was like, I don't approve of guns, so now none of my characters will have guns in my movies anymore. And then like Bruce Willis, it's like, well, all of my characters have guns, so I guess I'm just gonna roll into that.
Yeah, I mean, it actually makes sense for Bruce Willis.
Yeah,
It's
if
like,
I want to keep my career, I better support guns.
I love guns. I mean, if it wasn't for guns, everyone knows the Beretta and Die Hard. I mean, that's why I'm Bruce Willis.
Now I have a machine gun, although it isn't. I guess it has full auto in the movie, so yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, everything's full auto in a movie, so.
um, yeah. Rocky asked when his next fight is, and the promoter says 2 weeks, which I feel like Rocky is like, oh, I want to fight sooner, but then people are amazed. But like, hey man, show your rest for like, I don't know, half a year.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, that's a like big like some of those big like boxing matches, like they only happen like once a year. It's like I love that payday. Like you train for 3 months. I mean, it'd be 3 months of hell because if you see stuff about boxing training, it is. I mean, we'll see it in this movie too, but it's an absolute nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
To do that to your body.
And then those MMA guys I've heard about, yeah, I went to like the highest mountains in the world to run.
Yeah.
So I could, in the ring at sea level, I was like a god. Like I never ran out of energy. It's like, yeah, but you're like literally starving your brain of oxygen to achieve that. But yeah, I mean,
you're just changing how your body works. You need less oxygen to work at a high. Yeah. Then we cut to a dirty Philadelphia, which I've never heard or seen as Philadelphia as a clean city. So this is right on point. Still, 70s America is a complete garbage pit. So
Philadelphia is known as a particularly rough city all around. It doesn't have the depression of Detroit, but it is just known for mean.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always ironic that they're called the city of brotherly love, and then you look at all their sporting events, and it's just they're famous for having terrible crowds, like throwing batteries at the refs.
Like the guy, one of the Dallas Cowboys, like the last game he played in, he almost got paralyzed on the field. I think it was Troy Aiken or something. And that like it was in Philadelphia, and the crowd was like, yeah, they were like carting this guy off the field.
Yeah,
like he wasn't walking off. They were just like ecstatic. They're like, it's the best thing that could have happened. Is this guy got paralyzed? Literally, last football game the guy ever played in. And they asked him about that later, and he's like, well, God, I hope they were cheering. I was beating their ass for years. If I was them, I'd be cheering for my team. So he did like come back, but yeah.
Yeah, and you have the show.
They're known as a vicious like sports town. I don't know what the rest of it's like. Never been there.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, well, if we take anything by It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, everyone there is awful. But yeah. I don't know how true any of that is.
I mean, there's always some truth behind everything.
Yeah.
It's like I live near a legendarily psychotic city, Detroit, and been there many times. It's not as terrible as what you'd think. I wouldn't go hang out there at night or anything, but it's like, yeah, there's some nice stuff to see there during the day. And I've been there for sporting events, and there's other stuff you can go to and do. But yeah, it's a place where if you come to that city with a trouble mindset, it's like you will find that it is waiting for you. In ways you never imagined. But if you just go there to passively go through and see car shows and sporting events, you're fine. But yeah, if you're going there like, I'm going to show these guys who's boss, is like, oh no, you're not.
Also in Philadelphia, they usually have good wrestling crowds, but also for almost like 15 years after WCW went under, they had like 5 different like death match like promotions that popped up there. It's like, wonder what the hell that's about.
Yeah. Just death match after death match in this city. I mean, yeah, this Philadelphia definitely like, oh, this is Escape from New York, America. Like, this looks really bad. I mean, it actually looked dangerous, the places they were filming it.
Yeah.
Now, I guess according to the producers, though, of the movie, like when they were filming him running around and stuff, people were like genuinely excited and interested. Like, what's going on? This looks cool.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those scenes where he's running and like the people, like they're not, those aren't paid extras. Those people are just staring directly at the camera and him the whole time. But it works because it's like supposedly they're excited for him because he's their city's favorite son. And
well, yeah, especially it works later on because you just ADR people going like, "Hey, Rocky, we love you."
Yeah. But really, most people are standing there like, it's funny, you know. It's like, yeah, you got to work with what you got.
Rocky's walking the streets, bouncing a ball around. I'm not sure. Is this the only time the ball's in this movie, or does this like?
No, ball's in this movie a lot.
Yeah, but does it go throughout the franchise? I can't remember.
I couldn't tell.
He plays with puppies in a storefront window. There's a rundown building that says professional boxing on it. That's the gym that he'll go to eventually. There's like a bunch of white trash people hanging out, and there's like a white trash barbershop quartet going on. I have no idea what the hell's going on here. Just people hanging out. Yeah, we don't have video games. This is what the youth did in the 70s.
They were like, they were singing like doo-wop or something. It's like that. This seems like it's lifted from another time.
Rocky gets home. He's like scrounging. Oh, also, he grabbed like some booze from these kids and drank a swig of it, and then he gets home and he's like scrounging around for food and booze. He talks to his turtles. What is it? Cuff and Link, I think they're called later on. Which, as far as I am to know, this may be the one trivia I looked up. They are still alive today.
He kept them, yeah. All the pets in this movie were actually like his pets.
Yeah, but those turtles still alive. You know, they're however 50 some years old or whatever. Or
those like parrots people buy, like those African grays. It's like if you buy it when you're 50, it's like, well, you're gonna have to put it in your will because it's gonna outlive you. It's gonna live to be like 120 years old. We're just gonna sit on a perch and mimic your voice, but
Rocky has a poster on the wall of Rocky Marciano, a great Italian boxer. I don't really know. I'm just that's all I remember about his mythos.
Yeah.
Because I was always confused because like people talk about Rocky Marciano. I was like, oh, is that Rocky from the movies? It's like, no, it's a different Italian boxer.
That's a real boxer.
Yeah. Yeah, but when you're a kid growing up, you know the TV more than the reality of boxing.
Yeah.
So I grew up, it was just Mike Tyson and somehow still Muhammad Ali because he just had so many great sound clips that he just got played in every kind of retrospective.
Muhammad Ali was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, his ability, no one can match his sports, fighting sports bluster of Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, which he
and
got.
It wasn't always his delivery. It was just his whole panache, whole, because he didn't have the best. He didn't have like a super intimidating voice or anything.
Yeah.
But it was just like he said this stuff, and you could tell looking straight in his eyes, he believes that.
Yeah.
He absolutely believes that.
Which he got that showmanship from watching wrestling.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. It makes perfect sense.
Which I believe he got from Gorgeous George.
That's amazing.
Which I believe the thing around Gorgeous George is like he'd come to the ring with fluffy feathery robes and stuff like that, and his whole thing was like he's called Gorgeous George is like he's meant to, it's not said explicitly, but you're supposed to think he's gay and he's beating up your favorite hometown hero.
Yeah. It's kind of like an affront to manhood, and or I don't know if he would. If it, back then it would be gay, but maybe just like an effete, like European type or somebody you wouldn't like. It's like, oh, okay. Kind of what they played up in like Talladega Nights.
Yeah.
Sacha Baron Cohen character. But he was actually gay, I think.
Yeah. In that one, yeah. Yeah, that's why it wasn't explicitly back then that way, but that's how people read it. You know? That's what's going on in the back of their head. Rocky hangs his coat on a machete stuck in the wall.
I love that. I wanted to do that now. It's like that's a great coat. I think if there's a mattress stabbed into the wall with that machete and then he hangs his coat on it. because his bed is like rolled up in the corner for some reason. It's tied up.
Yeah. That's their version of a Murphy bed, just tied up into the
Like,
wall.
yeah, just tied up with twine. It's like it's the worst apartment. Whoever did the set design for this movie, I know they didn't have much to work with, but they're like, let's find the most depressing neighborhood in Philadelphia, the worst apartment that we could imagine. I mean, because apartments were probably actually much nicer than that. They just
Yeah.
made it into some kind
You
of
know, just
hellhole.
stab some walls, knives into the wall. Because he even hangs his hat on like a knife with knuckle busters on it or whatever, or knuckle
Yeah,
dusters on it. He's got that old refrigerator where it has that weird like cylinder at the top of it, which I'm guessing that's the compressor or whatever
yeah,
or
that's the
something.
compressor. Yep, the old Kelvinator refrigerators.
um, he looks in the mirror and he gets sad seeing like a picture of his younger self. A lot of like introspection here. It's like you kind of have to read into what it means, but a lot of this first half of the movie is just making Rocky as sad as possible, even though
Yeah,
it's like, but like always also recognizing he has some sort of talent. Um,
because he actually seems like like a very nice person,
yeah,
or at least, well, yeah, he's a nice person, or someone who wants to look out for things that are weaker.
but yeah,
Or,
there's kind of duplicitous stuff going on here, but yeah,
well, he's kind of like backed into a corner because there's things that happen in this movie, like for the first part of it, like for instance, what he does with for a living, an actual living besides fighting, doesn't seem to match his character,
yeah.
but it does also because it's like this is what I do. This is like this is who I am.
But yeah, I mean that's the I don't know. It's like I don't know. In some ways, Rocky's the perfect employee because he'll do all the hard work and none of the thinking.
Yeah, he's not troubled by like introspection in any way.
So yeah, the next day. All right. Oh yeah, he puts some ice on his. He gets some ice to put on his head because he has the cut over his eye, which people have mentioned throughout this movie. Which I feel like I wouldn't even balk an eye at it, but everyone here has to mention it's like, ah, what train ran into you or whatever.
Yeah, because I would like if I saw that, I'd be like, "What happened to your eyes?" Like, "Oh, I'm a boxer." Okay, and I never like If I ever saw him after that, it's like, "Why is his face messed up?" It's like, "Well, he gets hit in the face for a living."
Yeah, the next day, Rocky's trying to hit on Adrian. This is Talia Shire. While she's at work at the pet store. She's like put off by it, but also intrigued by Rocky. So it's a weird. Their first half of the relationship is super weird, but whatever.
Well, yeah, because you find out, yeah, it actually makes sense when you see the whole thing
Yeah,
like for what it is. But yeah, at first it seems like he's actually trying to be really nice, but he's also kind of a buffoon too. So he's like, even in attempting to be nice, he's sort of aggressive in a way that like immediately makes her skittish
yeah.
because he's just trying to be funny because he's trying to like make up jokes and tell stories, and she's just like, I can't deal with this. I can't deal with you, and he doesn't know why. He's like, oh, if I make her laugh enough, we'll like each other. Some people are more brittle than that. This guy's not like subtlety's not his thing.
No. Rocky also just casually steals turtle food here, so that's not like, well, is Rocky a good guy or not?
Well, the lady says he's like, you got to pay for that. He's like, yeah, I know, and he just like palms it. Like,
yeah.
well, they seem to like kind of accept that, like, okay, the neighborhood guy is just this is part of his charming personality.
Well, I guess it makes up some sense there because we cut to next. Rocky goes to the docks and he chats up some good fellows at a Cadillac, and then Rocky chases down a guy in like a dock tractor or something like that, and then he's trying to get some money for a mob boss. So it's like, oh, okay, so Rocky's muscle for this guy.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
able
Rocky's like a knuckle dragger for the local book, or not the
to,
book, the local loan shark.
yeah. So he gets like $130 of the $200 that's owed to was it Gazzo.
Yeah.
And we cut to Rocky hops in the Cadillac and he hands off the $130 to Mr. Gazzo, which at first I thought he got 170 and he's like, I can only go 130. So I thought, wait, did Rocky skim? And then going back to look like, no, the guy had 130 and Rocky gave him 130. So this actually makes Rocky an honest crook because
Yeah.
he gave all the money he could get.
Honor among thieves. Yeah.
Rocky wouldn't think about like giving any less than what he was given. So, and then Mr. Gazzo hands him a 20. So basically, it's like So now he has $60 between this and yesterday. So
Yeah, so you can pay his rent for the next 2 months.
he's got a job tomorrow where he has to get some money from Mr. Del Rio, which he keeps asking like how to spell Del Rio, and which is funny, I guess, and nobody tells him. There's also the driver in the car who's just a complete asshole to Rocky here, and Rocky just wants to beat him up.
Yeah, and like Mr. Gazzo is like, he gets him out of the car. He's like, hey, just let it. Look, he doesn't like you. That's how he's going to be. Just let him talk. Just don't pay attention to it.
Yeah. Also, when he takes him aside here, he's like, "Why didn't you break that guy's thumb? Like now, people are just gonna walk all over me." And then Rocky correctly thinks, "If I hurt him, then he can't earn any more money."
Right. Which is always like that whole thing about the leg breakers are coming for you. It's like, well, if the guy works on, if the guy's number one, if the guy's a longshoreman, he makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
So whatever he's doing, he's the guy's probably a mess, but he's gonna be good for that other $70, unless you like disable him, because workman's comp or whatever is not going to kick in for at least 30 days, and so he's not going to be able to pay you at all. But yeah, that's always like that doesn't happen in real life. They'll take $70 a week from you, and they might take your car, they'll take your, I mean they'll do other things, but they won't disable you or involve the police.
Yeah.
They'll just
Then we cut to Rocky goes to the boxing gym. I thought that was funny. They had a no kissing sign in the locker room.
Yeah, that was weird. I like that. I'll probably get one of those signs and put it up somewhere.
I wrote
I think that's like machismo stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just that thing like calling people a bunch of girls and then daring them to be, manly men and punch each other in the face.
Yeah.
Rocky. I wrote Rocky can't.
Yeah, don't be a weakling. Crush his orbital socket. You don't need to look to the right.
Rocky. I wrote Rocky can't remember his locker combo, but so he pulls that out of his hat, and then it doesn't work, and then he just busts it off with a. I don't know. I was gonna say flamethrower. The fire extinguisher.
Kind of the opposite of a flamethrower. Anti-flamethrower.
And then he realizes that, oh, he doesn't have a locker anymore. And Mickey, the guy comes in and says Mickey said to bag and hang his gear, and so it's just hanging on the wall. Which he never grabs his gear, which I was like, that's your stuff. Why aren't you grabbing it? He leaves it there.
Yeah, that's called being put on Skid Row in their parlance. He's like, I had that locker for 6 years.
Yeah.
Now I'm on Skid Row. Like I'm a bum or something. Everyone's a bum.
Yeah. Then Rocky goes and talks to Mickey to figure out the locker situation. Mickey doesn't believe in Rocky saying he's got heart, but he fights like an ape, and which we'll find out why he really doesn't like him, which is still like, I don't know, maybe you can work with the guy, give him a steady job where he doesn't have to work for the mob.
Yeah, because like no one wants to be a low level guy for the mob. It's just like, he doesn't have an in at the docks. You can get him in the union. So,
I hear
his time.
And here we have the guy that now has Rocky's locker is the Ripper, which is Stan Shaw, which we last saw him in Fried Green Tomatoes.
Yep.
Which
it's funny to see him in much earlier time, still looking pretty much the same.
Yeah. Which you don't see him for the rest of the movie. I was like, oh, that's fine. Then we cut to Rocky goes back to the pet store to try to win Adrian's attention. She doesn't even pay attention to him. They have like birds are playing around with it, and then she doesn't say anything to him until he says like good night. She's like, oh, good night. Like that's weird. Then we cut to Rocky goes to the bar. He picks up a guy and throws him back into the bar.
Yeah, like carries this guy in.
Yeah.
He just sleep on the ground outside of the bar. And see, this is where Rocky's like a caretaker again. He's watching out for the drunks.
Yeah.
Carries him back into the bar, sets him next to a guy, and it's like, hey, you watch out for him, okay? It's just like, huh. And I'm guessing it's because it's cold outside and you can just get drunk and freeze to death. I'm not sure.
How many deaths have that happened that Rocky now has to pick people up at? But I'll see how it makes him look kind of strong because, man, you ever try?
I can't pick a human being up.
Yeah,
so.
Try that sometime. It's fucking impossible.
I mean, I remember me and Grayson were screwing around There was a picture of him when he was a baby where I was holding him and I was like, come here, and he weighed like 150 pounds and I was trying to pick him up and carry him. And I was like, okay, let's stop. Because I felt things like starting to give way. It's like, no, I need to be able to work. We can't do this. It would have been a funny picture, but the dad's too old.
But I mean, you can. I mean, it's a lot easier to pick someone up when they have muscles that can help assist you picking them up. But when someone's dead weight, it's nearly impossible to pick
Yeah,
somebody
like
up.
yeah, even if you're bench pressing 300 pounds or something, it's like you can't pick up a 300-pound person because he's not, unless he's like planking, You're just, but even then, his body's weight's not proportional. So all the weight's going to be in the middle. It'd be like if the dumbbells were slapped in the middle of the bar and you were grabbing outside them. That'd be called committing suicide. You would never do it that way. So
It'd be easier to get out a tarp and roll them onto a tarp, but even like rolling dead weight is nearly impossible. You get like a shoulder up, and you're like, how do wrestlers do this?
well, the trick is carpet and twine. Because if you can get like the arms and legs like compressed like in a roll of carpet and just twine it off at both ends, you can firemen carry that.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. It hurts your knees and back, but it's not like, but you're not going a mile that way either. You're just transferring it from like the trunk of a car into a pit of fire. So it's relatively easy. It's still difficult, but yeah, when the arms and legs are all over the place, the head's lolling around, and then if they're screaming and fighting and hitting you, then it's even worse. At least I've read this in books.
Rocky's looking for Paulie. We get the first mention of Apollo on the TV in the background. Paulie's looking for mob work, but Rocky says Gazzo isn't hiring, which it seems like Rocky's trying to protect him here. Where he's like, "Yeah, my job sucks. I do it for survival because it's the only thing a stupid person like me can do. So
yeah,
you shouldn't be doing it."
Yeah, I'm good at violence whether I want to be or not. You're just an alcoholic. And also, he's like a butcher and a meat packer. Those guys make a lot of money.
Yeah.
I know he's saying physically he can't do it anymore, but
well, supposedly I think this is one thing another trivia I saw because I watched this on Amazon. So that sometimes they'll have trivia on the side.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I cited there was a cut scene where Paulie explains like why he's so mad and why he wants a different job. And apparently he was getting like inflammation in like his joints from working in a freezer.
Okay.
Which I think is the opposite of what happens. Usually the ice cold places help your inflammation, but I'm not sure. Could be different. Could be a different kind of inflammation. I don't know. Maybe he has different.
Well, I mean, I just know like professional. Like I know a guy that's like a butcher. Like that's his job. He's a meat cutter. Makes more money than I do. He earns every penny of it, also, because that's like real physical, gory work.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, those guys do pretty good. I mean, it's maybe he wasn't for some reason, or he was on his last. Because I don't know many people who have a job where you just drink whiskey from the bottle all day. But maybe back then that was more common. I don't know.
Well, this is also where, like, I think Paulie mentions his sister, and also Rocky's talking about Adrian, and I didn't realize they're talking about the same person at this moment.
Oh, okay.
Because Paulie's talking about, yeah, I'm talking to Adrian, and then Paulie's like, yeah, my sister, she's like, it's like she can't date anybody. She's a weirdo. She's a loser. She's like, she's almost 30 and she's gonna dry up. It's really weird how Paulie talks about his sister.
Yeah, it's in a very semi-sexual, like wildly, like no one would talk about their sister. But I mean, if you're just kind of a wet-brain drunk, maybe you would.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Also, like I didn't know. I've seen all the other ones of the franchise. I didn't know that Paulie and Adrian were brother and sister. Then Rocky goes with the bartender. They're walking. Apollo Creed on the TV is played by Carl Weathers, which he's fantastic in this, but he's fantastic in everything. So
Carl Weathers is great.
yeah, it's kind of weird that like he's able to stand alone against Stallone and Schwarzenegger, and somehow didn't have his own action career. They tried it once. He was had a movie called Action Jackson, and then it didn't work out, and so he never got his own movie ever again. Well, maybe he did. I'm not sure, but not an action movie. But should have. He's so good.
Yeah.
And he continues to be good. He's great in the Mandalorian.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Um,
it was nice to see him in The Mandalorian. It's like
yeah.
that's cool.
But yeah,
It's a cool name too, Grief Karga. Like, isn't that cool?
but the bartender doesn't care for Apollo because he thinks he's too much of a braggart, and probably some subtle racism stuff here. It's
Oh no,
probably
there's not subtle racism. He's like makes a racist comment
oh, does
about
he?
him.
Oh, I don't
Oh yeah,
remember
yeah, yeah. I can't say it, but he does. Watch the movie.
that.
And Rocky's immediately like, What's wrong with you?" He's like, "This guy's the best," and because
Yeah,
Rocky always wants to defend everyone, even
yeah.
people that don't need the defending. Like,
But yeah, here's where he shows that Rocky respects Apollo Creed, and so like, which will make sense in the rest of the franchise because they basically become best friends reluctantly, I guess. So it's like, oh yeah, we're the only two that can do this. So,
yeah,
um, yeah, he leaves the bar, and I wrote Rocky comes across some 40-year-old kids looking for adults to buy them liquor.
his kids look older than him.
Yeah.
Hey, Mister, can you go buy us a buy us a bottle?
And Rocky takes Maria away from the group and trying to dissuade her from like drinking and smoking and whoring.
Yeah,
Which here it's trying to show Rocky as being a good guy and he's trying to look out for like the people in the neighborhood, but then she doesn't appreciate his help and she calls him a creep. And so
yeah. Welcome to, like I said, welcome to blue collar hell. Like, don't be a whore. It's like, well, that's no way to say it, but in his world, it's like it is. It's like, yeah, don't be that thing.
I mean, he does preface it with like, I'm going to use a bad wood here.
Yeah, that's true. He does. I don't like to talk this way around women. That kind of fashion thinking.
But yeah, here's where we just have like self doubt creeps in once again to Rocky because that's kind of like the genius of this movie is just having Rocky fail at so many things. Even though he's like he wins the boxing match in the beginning, he seems to, he seems to be in good shape, but like everything else in his life is in shambles, and he can't win. He can't win this girl's heart, who seems to be like he should be able to knock that out pretty easily, but he's also just an idiot, but he seems to be observant too. That's kind of his whole thing. Because it's easy to say like Rocky's a dumbass, but he's not. He's just kind of he can't express himself very well, but he does see the world for what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not living in a fantasy world, but he has like big dreams, just no ability to like make them happen.
Yeah.
He's kind of stuck in that. What's the beauty of this movie is like there are no bad people in this movie. There are no good people.
Yeah.
There are no like ultimate heroes. There are people on a redemptive journey, maybe on an arc.
Yeah.
But there's no like horrible people in this movie, but there's no good people. These are all like, oh, these are real people.
Yeah.
Which is what's kind of cool about it. Even though it's like a preposterous scenario, it's also like, well, yeah, all these people kind of suck, but they're also kind of like everyone I know. It's like there is no Superman here, or even like Batman. It's like, it's a dark person with a good heart. It's like, no, it's just a bunch of people bumbling through a life that is not fair. It is very cruel. That's why I call it like blue collar hell. It's like, yeah, these are all people that are trying and failing and continuing to try and just till they get so old they just can't fail anymore.
Yeah.
They just can't restart. It's like that's the horrifying.
The American Nightmare.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Blue collar hell.
We cut to Apollo Creed has a meeting. His opponent is like fractured a bone, so they can't have this huge match that they're supposed to set up. Which I think they're having like a rematch or something like that because he won the title from this guy. I can't remember.
It's something like that.
So they don't have a contender for Apollo that can get ready in time. Because it's like, oh, there's this guy. He's like, he's the next weight class down. Do you think he can give him 2 weeks to like gain 50 pounds to get in your weight class? It's like, that's not going to happen.
Just give him steroids. I don't think he's going to want to do that.
So Apollo gets the idea, which is genius that he comes up with it and not the promoter, because it just shows that the promoter's like just taking all the money and has none of the ideas.
Yeah. No soul in that guy at all.
So Apollo wants to set up an underdog fight where here he says like a local Snow White boxer. He needs a white guy to box, and he's gonna give some local talent a chance at the heavyweight title. And so of course the promoter loves the idea, and it is a good pivot. Like, what are you gonna do? You don't have like, let's get some local talent in here, which is weird because there's another movie called Invincible about like a local Philadelphia guy making it on like the special teams for the Philadelphia Eagles, and
Yes, I've
uh,
seen that one.
which I don't. It's not like he really goes on to do anything, but it's just the build up to the story that he gets to the team is great, and then he doesn't do anything, but we cut before we do that. So, so that being the end of Act One, because that's we have Rocky is down in his dumps, and then the plot is Apollo Creed needs an opponent. It's like we know, okay, Rocky's gonna be the opponent.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird if it didn't happen.
But we don't know how it's gonna happen, because also I didn't see this. I didn't know if it was like, oh, does Rocky go through like a tournament and win his way through it? It's like, nope.
Nope. There's 2 scenes of boxing in this movie. He fights 2 people in this movie. That's it. Which sounds weird when you say it, but then when you watch the movie, it's like, well, this is perfect. It's
Yeah.
like, it's weird.
Oh
This is,
yeah,
this is a sports movie that's not a sports movie. It's a character study. It's
Yeah.
a movie about boxing where it's like, it's not really about boxing, and you don't have to know anything about boxing to appreciate it.
no.
It's also about
In fact,
the
it's probably
bicentennial.
worse if you know anything about boxing.
Yeah, it's probably like, what are they doing? What are these actors doing? It's about the U.S. bicentennial, which is like, it's a celebration of America because it's actually came out the year of the bicentennial. So it's got that going through it. Yeah, so like on paper, it's so many things that it's like not really, which is why I think this movie, made like $500 million.
So for Act Two, we got Rocky's lining up work with Gazzo. They hear about Rocky going on a date with Adrian, so Gazzo gives him $50 for the date.
Yeah, see, even the local loan shark is a redeemable character.
Yeah.
Is like, yeah, go ahead, have fun. Now his driver, of course, says horrible things.
Yeah, this is where I learned that Adrian is Paulie's sister. Then we cut to Apollo is going through a register of boxers, and he comes across the name Italian Stallion, which catches his eye, which feels weird because he's going through a book, and it means they printed his name in a book. So this, some registry
And they
of
have a
boxers.
picture of him too.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why, because like Apollo is thinking in his mind like, this is the white guy we need, and then Rocky fits that bill. That's why Rocky gets picked, not because he's good, not because he's bad, not because anything, because he just happened to make up the right name for himself that it caught Apollo's eye for his thing.
Yeah, see, I like the Apollo's body man though.
Yeah.
Is like, he's looking through it and he's like, yeah, he's a southpaw.
Oh yeah.
and he's like, yeah, you don't do well against those guys. That guy can hit, you're in trouble. Like they're kind of setting up. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is not going to seem so ridiculous because even his, I'm just calling him his body man. That's a political term. I don't know what this guy's thing is, but he's the guy who like he does the facts and figures. It's like, yeah, I don't know about this Apollo.
Yeah.
He's a southpaw and he can hit. It's like, you might be in trouble. Be good with that, which I looked up. Southpaw is a boxing stance and
Yeah.
something. Yeah. So
No,
it's
it's
like,
just no, it's your left-handed boxer. You punch with your left hand.
oh,
forward.
okay.
So like they say like a 1-2 combination. So like a 1-2 combination, you're right-handed, right?
Yes.
So you would punch with your right fist first. That would be the 1, and then left fist would be your 2, and like so like you'd be punching with your back foot with your right, and then so that'd be more power, and then front foot with your left, so it'd be less power, but it's a combination. So then that's reversed for a left-handed boxer, and so that throws off everyone's timing. It makes things weird. So, it's the same thing like in baseball, where it's like a left-handed pitcher just throws everything for a loop. So,
Oh, okay.
it's like, oh, now this is back, and then you have switch hitters to try to combat that, and so because there's like more, I forget what the advantage is. Like basically, what is it? So if you're a right-handed batter, yeah, and somebody's throwing left-handed, like it's basically coming from like the way their hand would arc. It's like it's coming from outside the box into the plate, and it's just kind of weird to judge. Whereas if it's like if the baseball is basically coming from like kind of like over your shoulder and then curve and then moving into the plate area, that's more easier for you to like knock out of the park because of how the physics of it work or whatever. So something like that. I don't know. Maybe I made that worse. You know, just left-handed people are weird, and it's, you know,
It's gonna throw you off, and you got to reverse the. If you own a Tavor shotgun, you've got to reverse the discharge shoot because
yeah, or just
if you're
take it to the
left-handed,
face, like.
yeah, shells take it into the face.
Or if you're British, you just gotta learn to shoot right-handed. Oh, yeah, I think they got rid of all those guns though.
Yeah, those guns were terrible.
Yeah, they had their bullpup the rifles, and there's no way to switch the ejection port, so everyone just had to shoot right-handed. Which in the American military, like you can shoot left-handed with M60 machine gun. Well, not machine guns anymore. Well, actually now they are. But anyways, the shells eject towards your face. There's a shell deflector to make it less likely to go directly in your face, but it still will.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, we're just saying like there's a mismatch here that the body guy here sees that like that Apollo's not paying attention to because he's just more setting up the theatrics of it. Because he's like, well, I'm gonna win no matter who they give me. It's like it's an unknown boxer. Like, how the hell are they gonna beat me? So.
Yeah, which is actually like not an unvalid thought. It's not like that's not deep arrogance. That's just like experience versus talent. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
of course I'm going to win, but are we going to make it a show?
Yeah. Because he needs to make millions of dollars, and what he's doing is going to make him successful. Like, not spending all his time training, like him setting up this event is the successful part of what's going on here. And everything he's done makes this whole event successful. But he doesn't give the credit to Rocky because he doesn't need to know who he is because he's just some guy.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's sort of like his downfall is he misjudges Rocky because, you know, he's worried about other things. He's worried about making this a success.
Yeah, he's like a business guy at this point.
Let's see here. Then we cut to... Oh, yeah, I wrote this. They did this weird because I think it's the next scene. Polly and Rocky are walking back to Polly's house because Polly and Adrian live together, but I don't know if this is like their parents' house or if they just live together.
I think they live together. Maybe it was their parents' house. I'm not sure.
Yeah. But like all Polly's talking about, like, yeah, I'm gonna go on a date with my sister, and then like then Rocky keeps inquiring, like, does she know she's going on a date? And he's like, yeah. And then of course they get there, and she has no idea she's going on a date. It's also apparently Thanksgiving, which is super weird.
Yeah, because like the lights are out, like no one's home almost.
Well, she's making a turkey in the oven, and then he like throws that away, and then makes her angry. And then she like runs into her room, and then like Rocky has to get her out of there. Also, I saw a picture. I think it's Paulie that was in the Navy, but we're just like, so I think it's supposed to be him. There's like picture of, I think it's him in like a sailor's uniform or something.
Yeah,
like,
I'm not sure because I know he was actually in the Marines for like 5 years, so I don't know if that was something from that era, but it looks like a naval uniform.
Yeah, it looks like I'm not sure. But yeah, Rocky attempts to talk Adrian out of her room, and then eventually she opens up the door and she kind of like stoically walks out. She's dressed in as like, you know, she has outdoor clothes on. She's got the weird, what do they call that, hat or whatever thing.
Yeah, like a sock cap or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They go to a closed ice rink, and Rocky works out a deal with the guy to get the rink to themselves for 10 minutes.
Oh, that guy was also the director of the film.
Oh, okay.
He was doing a stand-in there.
So yeah, of course, difficult to work with. You gotta pay him, and then he'll count you down. No, I don't remember any of this stuff because I've never seen it before, so I didn't know like this. Oh, this is out there, because like, yeah, he says something about like, yeah, she needs to get some exercise like for medical purposes, and she gets skates on and skates around, and Rocky just runs around next to her. This is super awkward and weird, but you know, they do have like a conversation because she's like wondering like, why do you box? He's like, I don't know. But here he gives like his known history of what a southpaw is.
Hmm.
which I believe is incorrect, but some of the details are there. So, um, because I don't actually know. I did see that bit of a trivia flash up where it's like this is incorrect, but some of the details are correct or whatever. Um, um, yeah, the rink guy counts them down as like yeah, and then apparently Rocky's parents told him to like develop his body because he doesn't have a brain, and apparently Adrian's parents told her to do the exact opposite. Like she doesn't have a body, so you better have a brain. So,
Yeah, that's always nice.
which I don't know. There's not really like a whole lot of like. There doesn't seem to like a whole lot of things in this movie that like. Oh yeah, Adrian's super smart. It's just that she has a job and she's a woman.
Yeah, she seems to be more. I don't know. She does develop a lot,
Yeah.
but she develops in kind of the way of. I mean, I think today you would call her autistic, maybe.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, here they're just like, yeah, he's just shy because they don't have a word for it or no one would acknowledge autism or anything. But yeah, it's definitely today it would be recognized as autism. But here, in the '70s, you just said people were shy and then put all the burden on themselves. It's like, why can't you be normal?
I also heard it expressed as backwards. It's like, oh, he's backwards.
Yeah.
It's like, what does that mean? It's like, well, he doesn't talk to anyone, so he's like anti-social. But anti-social means like you're violent. So it's just like, oh, well, he's backwards. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, that's a term for it. So yeah, she seems to like fall into that at some point. But I'm really like the point of her is like she just loves this. She comes to love this guy unconditionally because he's a good person,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like her character. Now I don't know. I think she does more acting and or becomes a bigger character in the later movies, but
Well, then she disappears at some point because it becomes a whole thing. It's like, why Adrian leave you? And that's supposed to be his whole character flaw. Is like he's alone. It's
oh, okay.
just him and Polly.
Oh, I thought she died like when they rebooted the franchise, like they made the character die. I didn't know
Maybe, but I thought there was one of. I thought there was one of. I think like Rocky 5. She's gone, and they just said like because like Rocky Balboa, the whole thing is about like basically he doesn't know his son, and so yeah, I think then it's supposed to be like a few years after she died, and he's like, I should reconcile with my son, and then it's like, I don't know who you are.
Oh, okay.
And then they have Rocky win the heavyweight championship when he's like 60. So
Just can't beat him.
I think so. I think he wins the championship in that movie. I can't remember. Or maybe it's another one of those where like he took him to the limit, and that's good enough for a win because he wasn't supposed to even last the first round, which is kind of like the whole Rocky character is supposed to be a guy who can't last the whole round and he lasts the whole boxing match.
Yeah, he basically just wins by a point, or at least doesn't give up. It's that don't give up spirit.
Yeah. Let's see here. Rocky walks with Adrian when they're going to his apartment. She's kind of lightened up a bit, and she's wondering why Rocky fights, and he doesn't really have great answers for it, but he's just like, it's like something I'm good at or something he likes, and yeah. Well, he's also explaining how like after a match he like feels terrible for like a week. It's just like he's just nothing but aches and bruises, but like for some reason it's rewarding to like build up to try to the build up to the fight or something like that. Rocky invites her into his place, and she says she has to go, but then she reluctantly walks in. He introduces Cuff and Link to her, and she remembers selling them to him, and she's reluctant to sit down next to him. This is all weird and creepy, but because also he ends up like cornering her. She like goes to leave, and he corners her and puts his hands in the way, and then like kisses her, and they kind of just like collapse into the corner, and this is all weird and creepy. But hey, I guess it's something you do in the '70s. It's like,
well, I mean, if you had well, she never said no.
Yeah.
So
she said she did say she wanted to leave, and that wasn't allowed.
Yeah. Well, she like the turtle, like Cuff and Link. She's got to come out of her shell. I guess you can say like it ended well, so it was fine. But yeah, I mean, I guess in some people's minds it could seem a little weird, but it's because she wasn't like a normal person who expressed any desires for anything or any kind of wishes. So it's like, yeah, you kind of just were stuck in this situation. But the as long as people don't say no, it's like, yeah, they probably wouldn't film it this way
No,
today.
no. The whole cornering thing, and then like, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna
putting
kiss,
your arm up when you're that much bigger than her is like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine.
and then kissing her is like, I'm gonna kiss you. You don't have to kiss back. It's like, well, I mean, people would probably call that rape nowadays, but you know what? I don't know, like this, everything, their whole relationship after the scene is totally fine. It's just this scene's the worst part of it. So,
And
I mean,
sometimes this is what it takes.
I mean, this is probably how it worked in the '70s. I don't know.
Well, with
Yeah,
her personality type, it's like,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I've never like had to deal with a woman that like wasn't interested. Like, you know, I guess like it's never been like I've had to talk anyone into anything. Like, well, what do you want to do? It's always been like established. It's like, nah, this is what we're doing. It's like, okay, cool. You know, it's never been like that whole like I'm not sure, I'm shy. Like that's never been a part of like my experience where you have to, because I would never talk someone into that
Yeah.
because it's like I'm not like
We got time, but this is a movie, so they don't have time. So
yeah, yeah. It's like if I ever felt like I have to talk someone into that, it's like, oh, you probably shouldn't be doing this because I'm not like the ultimate badass or anything, but I'm much larger than most women. So anything I do that seems the slightest bit aggressive is like he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
So, but again, I've that's just not never been my experience that anyone's like parameters have been established a long time ago. Like we can write out a contract about what we're gonna do because it's like this is you don't ever want doubt when it comes to that.
Yeah.
But
We cut to Rocky shows up at the gym. Mickey's looking for him. Mickey says Apollo's looking for sparring partners. And here's where I figure that Mickey's big problem with Rocky is him being like a loan shark's muscle.
yeah,
Sure, I think he calls him a Dago, which I don't know how racist that is, but that's just a bad
it's pretty racist.
Okay.
But it's Italian.
Italian, so it's white racism, which doesn't exist. Or so I don't know.
Well, it's like if someone called me a Mick or a Spud Bug or something. That's weird. Like, what are you trying to piss me off? Or now, if someone's like, take a walk, Patty, and they said it in like a British accent, I might be like, whoa, you just bringing it out of the ocean, huh?
We better organize and kill some people.
Yeah, hey guys, what if we form something called the Irish something army and ran the British out of America? It's like we do. Oh, we already did that. That's right. Yeah, it wasn't all Irish people; it was mainly other British people. But
Rocky goes to the office of Mr. Jurgen. He's the promoter. Jurgen lays out I think it's Jurgen. Jurgen lays out that Apollo's offering a fight for the heavyweight championship, or which Rocky basically denies the fight because he thinks he doesn't deserve it.
Yeah, that was kind of cool when he was like, "Well, no," and you think like, "No, you're supposed to say yes," but then you put yourself in his situation and you're like, "Yeah, I'm not up to his level. I would be a joke. I would disappoint this guy I idolize because he would just use me like a speed bag." So it's like it's one of the great things about this movie, whereas of course it's like, no, I'm nuts.
But yeah, it's good. Yeah, but your thing, he's like, oh, he's gonna be grateful. Cool, that's my dream. It's like, no, he hasn't earned it yet, so he doesn't believe he can have it. So
Yeah.
which I mean, that's kind of like the whole genius of the movie is him earning a dream he should really never have.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have a dream to be the heavyweight championship. His dream is to have another boxing match.
Yeah, but he's not thinking like big picture stuff. He's like, yeah, I want to like go, I want to have Spider crack my, brow again. That's my up and out.
We cut to they're at Adrian and Paulie's house. Rocky's watching TV with them. This is where Apollo is on TV explaining the fight to everybody. This is where like, oh, it's pre-recorded because then Rocky shows up and he's kind of making fun of Rocky, but then Rocky just either does he says he basically pretends to like not hear the veiled insults, but like Rocky is able to interpret that he is being insulted, but he just doesn't like talk about it necessarily or respond to it.
Well, Rocky's like the everyman. It's like, oh, if you were on camera and like the president of the United States was taking a shot at you or something, you wouldn't be like, hey, hell with you. You just be like, oh, okay. Because that's his role. He's like, he is just the everyman.
Here Paulie hears about the money that he'll get for the fight, and he basically like tries to create a job for himself. It's like, I could be a manager or your corner man or something.
Yeah, this one Paulie like almost grows limbs, like his eyes. He changes immediately, which is something sad about people that actually really happen.
Because he said, like, they say he'll get like $150,000 for the fight. We never see him get that money, but that's um, and I don't know. That's always like the thing with like most boxers. It's like, oh man, that's a huge amount of money, and then just somehow all disappears for almost every boxer that ever's lived.
Well, yeah, but then you look at some of the people in Rocky's life, a fictional character, and you can understand how that would happen.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just like,
yeah. Rocky wants to believe in everybody. And you think, yeah, if you just give them enough money, they'll make their own dream. It's like, no, they just fail and need more money.
yes, that's kind of the nucleus of the Rocky character. It's like everyone's waiting to take their shot, and everyone's got to believe in their dream or whatever. And he thinks it's like that's kind of what drives him, and he just doesn't have the ability to see. Again, he's not looking at it from a high plane. He's just like, I'm getting to the next fight. That's my dream. And everyone around him is like, all of a sudden he's there. He's like, oh, if I can give them money, I can facilitate them being their best person too. And it's like, most people don't work that way. Most people are like, no, I want to get to a point and be satisfied. I want to plateau. It's like, yeah, if I get $10,000, I'll never need money again. Of course, that never works out because then you need the next 10,000, the next 10,000. But it's the kind of deals people make with themselves to, I don't know, keep from killing themselves. Very miserable lives in this movie. So.
I don't know. At least everyone has a house.
That's true. Oh yeah. What would Rocky's house cost in today's money? What would that be a month to rent in Philadelphia? Like $5,000?
Yeah, probably. And then we cut to Gazzo gives Rocky $500 for training and like rips a cigarette out of his mouth. It's like, yeah, you gotta get. There's a lot of interesting stuff. There's a lot of some boxing lore that comes in here. Cause yeah, well, I guess we'll get to it later. We cut to Mickey, which is I forget to mention, is played by Burgess Meredith. He's great voice and like
oh, he looks like a guy who just like got beat up for 30 years.
Yeah.
I mean, Burgess Meredith just looks like that.
Yeah. But yeah, Mickey reluctantly shows up at Rocky's apartment, basically trying to insert himself as Rocky's manager. And Mick gets emotional here, is like trying to beg Rocky to let him be his manager and explain like, how basically he made every wrong decision for his own life, but like he's learned enough along the way that he can pass it on to Rocky. And then Rocky's like, he's like, you could have done that 6 years ago when I first came in. Like, you could have believed in me then, but you only believe in me now because I just randomly get this shot. So this.
Yeah, I love this scene with him and Rocky. Like, because I've never seen Rocky really slam the door on someone.
Yeah.
He's always been the nice guy, and he's always like, "Oh, is he too dumb to see that this guy's full of shit?" He's like, "No, he's not. Actually, he sees it for." There's a lot of hurt behind his what he's saying. By the way, a lot of that completely improvised by Sylvester Stallone.
Okay.
Because some people said like Burgess Meredith seemed a little off in that scene at certain points when he wasn't doing dialogue. That's because they just kind of kept rolling.
Yeah.
And that whole angry scene where he would go in the bathroom and come out and go and then just yell down the street from his apartment. Well, that was improvised. It was kind of understood, like, do something about or around this, but make it like seem of the spur of the moment,
Well,
Because when people argue and yell and scream, sometimes they don't always make the most coherent sense. But it does sound like it's from the heart, and I think that's what they were looking for.
Well, there's an interesting thing here, and it is like character appropriate because there's, cause it mirrors the mirror scene because he talks to himself a lot. He said he kind of like practices conversations out loud.
Yeah.
And so so he doesn't really start talking out loud until Mick leaves. And that's when he's like basically having this pretend conversation with Mick, but Mick can still hear him. And I'm not sure if he's anticipating if he can still hear him or not. He's just kind of going off on his talking spree. And then, he kind of finishes up, gets all the heat out, and then he runs outside and basically you don't hear what they say, but they shake hands. And it's like basically understood like, okay, he's accepting him. Rocky's being the bigger man here and accepting him as his manager. So.
Yeah. And you think like, and that's another cool thing about this movie. You think like, oh yeah, Mickey's going to be like a sensei for him, like, Karate Kid type. He's going to learn from this guy and he's going to pass wisdom on. It's like, no, he's still pretty much a flawed person. He is going to show you how to fight.
Yeah.
But he's not like ever going to be your friend. He's just too angry. He's too mean. He's has such a hard view of the world. It's like he's never going to stop. There's never going to be a soft moment with him. There was only one time I think during the fight where he is like, "Hey, come on, Rocky. Okay, you've proved what you got to prove here."
Yeah.
Like, no.
Well, I mean, there's some time where because most of the training he does by himself, but
Yeah.
there are moments where he comes in and is like, "This is your biggest weakness, so we're gonna try to fix that because we don't have enough time to fix everything else. So it's like, let's fix this, and this will be the best thing that we can train against Apollo for." So,
Yeah.
Then we cut to Rocky wakes up at 4 a.m. to start training. He cracks 5 raw eggs into a cup and drinks them. Doesn't wash any cup out or anything, just sets it back up on the refrigerator.
That's salmonella bomb ready to go.
Yeah. So, yeah, of course, this is a famous scene. I don't know if anybody's ever done this on film before, but here it is. But yeah, that's plenty of protein for your morning workout. You know, that's
got to be good eggs on a hot set.
He heads outside in sweats and Converse and goes for a dawn run. Yeah, because I always forget, like when you talk about sweatpants, I always, even though it's literally in the name, like this is workout gear, this is something you sweat in. Sweatpants for almost all my life meant like, oh, that's like your pajamas.
Yeah.
But this was workout gear in the 70s.
Yeah, I have like Converse sweats on now. They're for model building. And I walk in them too and ride the bike in them, but yeah.
So he runs the streets of Philadelphia. He's like punch running, which I don't know if this is people do that all the time. Yeah, that's probably been in other boxing movies. I don't know. Weirdly, boxing movies they're usually almost all well done. I don't know what it is about boxing, but they usually make pretty good movies out of boxing stories.
I've seen guys do that at work.
Yeah.
Well, they'll like act like they're shadow boxing, or they'll come stand in front of you and do it, like trying to intimidate you, and they'll have some fun quip like, "Yeah, all this skill and expertise, and learn to fighting unarmed opponents." It's like kind of silly to me. Seems like I'm more like a Dirty Harry guy. It's like, yeah, he should have armed himself. Go ahead and shadow box at me a little more. See if I'm gonna get scared. Idiot. At work, by the way. This is where we're gonna get out of control.
But yeah, I think like boxing movies and baseball movies are usually all pretty good. And then I don't think there's ever really been a good basketball movie. There's been like 2. Like He Got Game and Blue Chips. They're the only good basketball movies.
Don't forget Teen Wolf.
Let's see. Here he runs up the famous steps of the Philadelphia Museum of Art, but here he gets like a cramp in his side and he struggles to the top. So
yeah, he's like winded. Like he's holding that little man with a knife is stabbing him. And I know that little man well. He was with me all my life. The life of a fat kid. So. He was right there.
Let's see. Oh yeah, and we cut to Rocky goes to Paulie's work at a meat locker. Paulie's drinking on the job, very obviously.
Yeah, not even hiding it.
Yeah, it's not even in a flask or anything. He just pulls out all like junk
straight from the bottle.
Yeah.
J&B, just like rot gut.
Paulie's pushing to get a job with Gazzo, but like Rocky's still reluctant to make that happen. Paulie wants to know what he sees in his sister, and then he's like Paulie punches a side of beef, but then Rocky starts punching it till I thought he was just like the meat was getting bloody, but also his hands get bloody as well. Like he hurts his hands here. Then
this is what he wants to do to Paulie for talking about Adrian.
Yeah.
Because even Paulie's like, "You're breaking the ribs," and it's like, God damn. It's like a lot of doing. That's a side of beef.
Then Paulie gives Rocky some meat, and then like Rocky leaves. Then we cut to Adrian like cleans up Rocky's bloody hand. Adrian initiates a kiss here, so it's like, okay, good, things seem on equal level. But here Rocky says, there's no fooling around during training.
You can't drain my essence, woman.
Yeah.
I need it to pure rage of fighting.
which that's the thing I've heard about before
Oh
too.
yeah, I've heard a lot about that. Yeah.
No idea if I don't know if they've done any A/B testing on that, but
Nope.
it's one of those boxing or fighting things that you just do because it's been done before. So
That's drum shit. That's guys around the fire and the drum 20,000 years ago. Like, don't drain your essence the day before war. Don't let the woman steal your soul before you have to go kill. I just that just goes right back to that. Doesn't matter if it's true or not. You just hear the drums beating in the back of your head. You know, it's like, okay, yeah, time to go get on a boat and kill some Egyptians.
Then we cut to Rocky's punching a bag. He's just like going at it like crazy, but he's not really. Doesn't really seem to have like a plan. He's just like, yeah, just swing till you're tired.
Yeah,
Which isn't really Rocky's like method. He's kind of like he plays very defensively and
yeah.
matches.
Rocky's a defense guy.
Yeah.
Those hands are for like getting hit, not for hitting. You know.
But so Mickey here like points out as like that he's like he has balance issues, and so he ties like his shoes together so he can only move his feet so far. So he'll work on his balance. He said this was a trick given to Rocky Marciano that like fixed him, like made him a champion because of that. So we never follow up on like what this does. It's just kind of a fun little thing. It's like
Yeah, it's both something Rocky and his trainers say. It's like your legs are going, your legs are no good.
yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's something you got to worry about. Which, like, I know, like, mom told me once, like, our grandpa, because he was like a professional ball player, is like, yeah, once an athlete's legs go, that's it. Doesn't matter what your upper body is. Once your legs are gone, you're done. Which is like, that makes perfect sense, but you never think about it that way. But these guys are thinking about it, so.
There's also where they also tell, even though Rocky's put out the thing like, "Hey, Adrian, we can't have sex." Here's where they're like, "And no sex," and like women weaken legs.
Yep.
My voice gets completely coarse.
Yeah. Yeah, that Burgess Meredith impression takes it out of it. It's got to gargle with.
I didn't even do it right, Rocky.
Yeah.
I'm not even. Still not doing it right. Anyways, yeah, you just got to gargle asphalt. That's Burgess Meredith. We cut to Rocky's outside as he's running through the streets. People recognize him, which again I don't know if this is just ADR or if they hired people to go, "Hey, Rocky, I love you."
No, they ADR'd it because they just filmed it through. That was all like free stuff. Like when he gets thrown the orange, supposedly the guy who threw him the orange like didn't know that it was going to be in a movie. He just like, orange, like, hey, here you go. Like it was totally like random. Well, according to the things I read, those stories sound nice, but then you find out it's like, no, it was actually planned. It's
half
there's no magic in the world.
Half of filmmaking is building the mythos of things that didn't happen, but you have to tell a story of how it happened so that it sounds important. Like, yeah, these things just came together out of nowhere. Like nobody planned it. Like, oh, that's amazing. And then you find out it's all planned.
Yeah.
Adrian shows off a new dress, which Rocky really likes, and then she gives him Butkus the dog, which is Sylvester Stallone's real dog. So that he has somebody to run with. And they cut to him running with Butkus
with like a rope. Like the dog has a rope.
Yeah,
not even a proper lead. It's just a rope.
Then he runs to the meatpacking plant, and Paulie's trying to get publicity for money for Rocky, which he gets a news crew in, which they kind of, I don't know, they almost insinuate like the news crew paid him to get an interview with Rocky, but I don't think that's what news crews do, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed like it was the sexy news lady, like, I'm the disco news girl, and we're gonna talk to a fighter. Hit that beef, sugar. Pound that beef, sugar. And he did.
Rocky's being interviewed in the meat locker by the press. Here we cut to Apollo and his gang are working on stuff. Apollo's worried about business rather than focusing on Rocky, which that's like his whole technically downfall, or at least doesn't become a pushover, or Rocky doesn't become a pushover. Because his body guys like watching Rocky like tear apart the side of beef. He's like, "Oh man, you better be worried about this guy."
Yeah.
He's
No one watches. This guy just bored into a cow. Like that's not normal, you know.
and of course that that scene where he says you broke the ribs will come back. So it's like
Oh yeah.
it's foreshadowing. um then because it's night, Polly's coming home drunk. He like takes the trash can back in. Even though Polly's kind of walking in pretty obviously loudly, apparently Rocky and Adrian don't hear him till he like turns the lights on. It's like that didn't happen, but whatever.
I like just was bouncing a trash can. Like, you would have heard that.
But he hears Rocky and Adrian talking about him, so he gets angry that they dare talk about him. They don't even really say anything bad. He's just Rocky's like, I don't know what he's thinking. He's like, you don't know what I'm thinking? Well, fuck you. Well, he's also drunk, so
Yeah, he's like really drunk, like more drunk than normal.
So Paulie starts breaking stuff. He mentions like all the things he does for people, which is like, it's like, yeah, they're your family.
Yeah.
Then Adrian gets angry and she kind of like shakes Paulie down and like pins him against a like sofa or something like that. But then after getting mad, she runs off to her room.
Well, after what he says something horrible, but basically like implies she's not a virgin anymore, which
Yeah.
is okay. But yeah, I guess back then that was important. I don't know.
Yeah.
And why your brother would know about that is weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or care. Yeah. Well, mom and dad aren't around anymore, so I have to care about these things.
Yeah.
But yeah, then Adrian comes out of her room and she's like, "You want a roommate?" And then Rocky's like, "Absolutely."
Oh, yeah.
Then we cut to the next day, and it's more training with Mickey, and then we meet Rocky's cut man. Which they're the people that are in the corner with a bunch of weird tricks to keep people in the fight when they shouldn't be.
Yeah, keep your eyes open. You know how to fight with a broken nose. Yeah.
Or break their nose back in place. They have like these weird, like metal things that they keep in ice that they can like keep the swelling down for like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird stuff like that.
Yeah, it's dark stuff. But it's no weirder than like the expert like chiropractors that like, oh, they'll just use like building, hammers and stuff, and it'll like loosen your joints up. It's like that doesn't look right, but it's like it works. But, wow, okay. Hey, you want to try this? Nope.
Nobody died yet. It's like, and I'm not going to be the first.
Yeah, and I'll be entertained by watching this happen from a distance.
Yeah, I like when they do like basically like a movie neck snap on the person, but it's just like, oh yeah, they hear a crack and then like, oh, like does that feel better? It's like, well, eventually yes, but like in my mind, it's just like I'd never do that because I just feel like, oh, he's gonna turn my neck backwards like in some like action movie.
Yeah. Well, especially when it's a big muscle bound like chiropractor.
Yeah.
Yeah, when your chiropractor looks like Conan the Barbarian, it's like, oh, there's stress on so many levels right now.
Paulie shows up and he like sort of apologizes and then asks permission to like make money off of Rocky's name, which I don't know what this accomplishment's. I mean, really, all it does is like eventually he advertises Paulie's meatpacking company, which he doesn't even own.
That Rocky can't. It doesn't have it in his heart.
Yeah.
To be like,
just shut him out. Yeah,
just make money off me. Cool.
Then we cut to the training montage. I don't know if this is where this started, but this was like in every 80s movie and it still exists to this day. So I almost a lot of ways, like even though this isn't an 80s movie, because like this starts off very dark and ends happy, which is very different for a 70s movie.
Yeah. Usually a 70s movie starts off happy and ends dark.
Yeah. Or starts dark and ends dark and you feel empty and all the way.
Never feels good.
Let's see here. I would get the famous like profile running shot, which I remember they used that in the Mike Tyson's Punch Out. We get here Rocky tackles the stairs with no problem. We also get his victory pose, which
Yep.
is a very famous thing. It's in like any kind of montage of movies in history. Like this will be there. I believe now there's even like, is that they have a statue of Rocky at that museum. And I'm not sure if it's the victory pose or if it's him in boxing gear. I can't remember.
I don't know. I'd have to look at it, but yeah.
Well, let's go look. Let's see here. Rocky statue. Oh no, he's doing the victory pose, but he is in boxing gear.
Oh, okay. So he's just not in sweats. That's the
Yeah,
difference.
yeah.
He's wearing his boxing gear. Okay. Yeah, some amazing like beauty shots of Philadelphia too.
Yeah.
It looks like they're filming from a helicopter, even though they were just on they were filming from a rig. But it's like, yeah, they got some great value out of that.
And I believe they do this like several more times in the series because isn't there eventually where like a crowd of people's running with them or something?
Yeah, I think that happens in one of the later movies.
Okay. And in the Creed movies, they do like they don't have that scene, but they have like the weird guys are like the I forget what it's called, like crooning or something like that, where like they're doing wheelies on motorcycles and ATVs, and Creed is like running around and like while that's going on around him, and it's like a cool moment in the movie.
Yeah.
That's kind of their version of running up the steps. Then we cut to Rocky wakes up early from the couch. He pulls some blankets over Adrian in her bed because he's sleeping on the couch and she's in her own bed. So, they put the bed down, so now they have left space. But
Yeah.
Rocky goes to the boxing venue to see the setup. He's like coming to the terms of the size of the event and still believe he doesn't belong here. So, and here he in the I forget what Jurgen shows up and says something to him. I can't remember, but it doesn't leave Rocky feeling better about the situation.
Well, they're talking about the fact that like, oh, they got my shorts wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be like one kind of shorts, and then it's backwards, and like that was actually an error in the production of the movie, and they could not afford to have that picture redone. So it's like, yeah, so we'll just make it and put it in the script. Like, yeah, whatever, It's like, supposedly.
Yeah, don't let.
I've been caught by this stuff before. Like, wow, that's cool. It's like, nah, it didn't happen.
Yeah, and we try to say that like sometimes that's just the mythos of movie making because
Right.
it's better to believe that than it is that it's not. We like it to, again, like magic to happen or turning mistakes into like a part of the thing. Working with your limitations rather than, well, we just got it fixed. Because that's boring. It's like, no, we couldn't fix it. So we did it with dialogue.
Which is smart and sexy.
So he goes home and he basically expresses all his doubts to Adrian. And he doesn't believe he's going to beat Apollo. And so, like, this is him at his lowest. Because this is
It's the darkness before the dawn.
Yeah. So that being in Act 2, because that's how Act 2s end. Your character at their lowest. Even though he's like, the scene before is him having his like training and he's like ready to go and like he's at his best. It's like, no, Rocky's still, the one thing he can't beat is his own self-doubt. So
that's why this is a great movie, because it's like, oh yeah, it always brings it back to the human part of it.
Yeah.
It's like we're all flawed. We're all God's flawed children.
So we have Act 3. It's fight night. The crowd is roaring inside the building. Although the weird thing here is it makes it seem like everybody came to see one match, but if this is what's presumed to be, there's been prelims. There's been other fights going on before the main event.
This is the main event. It's not like, oh, everyone just showed up for this. And it's like, okay, we're done. We was like not going to sell a lot of hot dogs that way, guys.
Which I didn't understand that till like, I don't know, it was like 20.
Yeah. I mean, we have to actually go to a few of these things. It's like, oh, okay.
We see Rocky and Apollo in their different locker rooms preparing for it, and some of them are doing different things, and some of them are doing the same thing, including shoving like a bunch of, I don't know, they take something up the nose. I don't know what the hell it is. Like some NyQuil shots up the nose or something like that.
Well, that's like that Nasacort stuff. It just clears your sinuses out.
Okay.
But they're taking heroic doses of that. You're
Yeah.
supposed to do like 2 squirts. They're like jamming the bottle up there. But you can breathe like that just gives you horse nostrils. Like you
Yeah.
can just suck massive amounts of
All
air
the
in
oxygen you need,
sinuses
baby.
are cleared out. Yeah, until you get like cancer from using that stuff.
And they also get like a ton of Vaseline put over their face. Like they just go
So the
out.
blood doesn't run into your eyes.
Ah, okay. Um, let's see here. Oh yeah, and then I don't. Something's happened to Apollo. It looks like either somebody's holding his stomach or somebody's holding his crotch, but they're like pressing as he breathes or whatever, and like some guy has like a stethoscope or whatever. So
Yeah, they're doing something to draw attention to his stomach or to his sides. You know, and it's like, oh, okay.
Then we cut to Rocky makes his way to the ring. There's a bit of fanfare as a local show their support. Yeah, come on, Rocky. We also see like on his what do you call that? What's the coat? The robe. He's got like the is it 4-leaf clover meat packing or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like a homemade thing, like sewn on at the last minute.
Yeah. So that's sort of his. I mean, also, yeah, Adrian stays in the back. She doesn't come out to see the fight.
She doesn't want to see him hurt,
Yeah.
essentially.
And then Apollo comes out as like George Washington crossing the Potomac. He's tossing silver dollars in the crowd. He's making a whole show out of this.
Yeah, he's doing a pro wrestling walk on.
The
only thing they're not doing is playing Enter Sandman.
Apollo. Then when he gets to the ring, then he shows off. He becomes Uncle Sam. He has Uncle Sam attire, and he's like pointing like, "I want you. I want you." The crowd loves it. He's great here. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He is the showman.
Then Jurgens is also he's the promoter, but also he's the announcer here. He gives the introductions. They bring out Joe Frazier for a moment, which I don't know like when this is in Joe Frazier's career. The only thing I know Joe Frazier for is Down Goes Frazier.
Yeah.
So I don't know when that happens in his career. So, they also mentioned the weights, and Apollo's got a 20-pound weight advantage, which I believe is not allowed.
Yeah.
I think you're allowed to be within like 5 pounds of the fighter, but not 20 pounds.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know who'd sanction a fight where like one guy is just got that much more weight.
But also this is like the heavyweight championships. I don't know if this is like I don't know if there's less strict rules like it's unlimited weight.
Well, how much money are we making? Yeah, we can change that. That's usually what it is.
I mean, Butterbean was a fighter, and I don't think I ever saw him fight somebody in his weight class. So maybe the heavyweight class has different distinctions. So
that's considered like exhibition fighting. I think.
Okay.
Because there's a difference there.
Yeah. But this is an exhibition match. This is for the heavyweight title.
Yeah, this was actually that's kind of weird.
This is a sanctioned match.
They could have said any number too. I don't know why they didn't just say, yeah, they both weigh the same.
I bet there's something with like Stallone where he didn't. He was like, oh no, this is what I get weighed. This is what I weigh. So, let's see here. And also like I like the bell to ring for the match to start is a Liberty Bell, so that that's all because this whole match is about like the bicentennial and stuff like that. So that's his whole thing. That's why Apollo Creed is dressed up as all these American figures and stuff like that, and then Rocky's just the Italian stallion. So, Apollo so they start the match. Apollo just toys the Rocky. It's also kind of funny here, even though I had the subtitles on. I don't think they subtitle it, but like Apollo's talking the whole time, but they both have mouth guards in, so you can't understand anything they're saying. I mean, you can pick up on context clues, but yeah, you don't really understand anything.
It's actually a good choice. They didn't ADR in like clear dialogue. It's like, these guys' mouths are just full of crap, and they're also taking shots to the face. So they're not going to be speaking clearly.
And this opening like 2 minutes, like there's a lot of misses on both sides. Like all Rockies are misses and kind of like embarrassing. He's taking big swings and missing, but all Apollo's misses are like almost seem strategic or whatever. But Apollo starts showing off, and then Rocky gets some shots in and knocks Apollo down. Like he like knocks him on the ground to like a 7 count or something like that. So that's when it's like, oh man, Hope just sprung in. But this is also when Apollo now gets serious, and then he starts hitting Rocky with a ton of combination. And then after like Rocky basically gets the crap beat out of him, he taunts Apollo and like, hey, come on. So this is where like Rocky comes into his own, where he becomes a different character as like the stage comes to him, where he's not that guy, but like that's why he likes boxing, because it actually brings a personality out of him that he doesn't really have.
Yeah, he gets to be this guy. It's the only time he can be this guy.
Yeah.
Which is just like beat on me. That's the guy. It's just like beat me to death. You know?
Yeah, he's saying give me your best shot, but it's through mouth guard. So it's at the end of the round, Rocky takes a big shot, but then so the bell saves him. He goes to his corner. Mick tells him to go for the body. He says like if you can't breathe, you can't fight. So,
which actually makes sense.
Yeah. I mean that's how Mayweather was. Like Mayweather, he blocked a lot of shots and hit you in the body, and then he just won the match through decision.
Yeah,
because he had the energy at the end of the match, and you were done for. Apollo's cornerman says to finish off Rocky because he's like he's treating this too serious. He's like, he came to a fight. He has no idea this is a show.
Yeah, he's not screwing around. This guy will put you in the casket if you don't keep your guard up.
Then we have round 2. Apollo starts taunting Rocky, which is like, he's ignoring the ring man. He wants to taunt Rocky and then like knock him out, but that's not what's gonna happen. Rocky gets a bunch of shots in towards the end of the round, so basically it seems like Rocky's won the first 2 rounds, and then they just kind of like have a montage and speed through like 75% of the match.
12 rounds, no, like 14 rounds.
Yeah,
they're just flying through this,
and mostly Rocky is getting beat up for all those matches, which I guess I don't know. It works for the reality later on, but doesn't necessarily work for like the match as a whole. Because you feel like, oh, Rocky won this match when he didn't.
Yeah.
Because we sped through him losing a lot of it. At some point Rocky gets knocked down and Mick yells for him to stay down, which I don't know if that's
the only time like Mick's like a human. Like yeah. Rocky, like, dude, he doesn't say dude, but he's like, yeah, just stay down. Just like, no.
Rocky gets back to his feet and taunts Apollo to fight him, which this is where like I think this is where Apollo just like sighs, like, oh man, this guy's not gonna give up. Like, this is not the fight I agreed to. Yeah. But at the end of this round, Rocky damages Apollo's ribs, and even like when Apollo goes in the corner, he's like, they're like, yeah, or he says his ribs are broken, and they're like, yeah, you're bleeding on the inside, man. We better call this match. And then like Rocky's in his corner, and like his eyes swell. He's like, yeah, cut me, Mick, which is one of the most famous lines from, so they cut his eye to relieve the swelling by letting all the blood out. Yeah. Which I don't know the long-term ramifications of that, but like Mick makes it sound like you don't want to do that. You'll end up like me.
Those big cauliflower ears. Yeah.
Yeah, I forget. He says something like that later in the movie. He's like, this guy, he put vegetables on my ears.
That's the guy. You take punches in the ear. Maybe that's from wrestling.
Yeah. But yeah, both the corners tell him to quit, but they don't. So it's the end of the round. The fight ends. Wait, no. Yeah, the fight ends. Like they're both like bloody and battered, and like it's like, yeah, why do we do this? It's so Rocky went 15 rounds. So that's the win for Rocky. Is like he's a guy who shouldn't have won, and he didn't, but he went 15 rounds with the champ, and that's a win because Rocky wasn't even expected to get out of the first round. So, but like Rocky doesn't care. Like all he wants is Adrian. So this is where famous him just yelling Adrian.
Yeah.
And this is like good for her. Like she doesn't want to see him hurt, but also for her to run out in a crowd that size to go get Rocky, like they probably don't play it up here, but yeah, if you would have played this up like she's autistic, you don't realize what this means to her and what this means to him.
Yeah, the wall of sound between her and him would be impenetrable
Yeah.
almost.
And for him to be like, like you know, to ignore boxing for love is a big thing for him. So that's why this works at the end. That's why one of their posters is Rocky holding hands with Adrian. Like that's what the movie's essentially about, I guess. Um,
Yeah, because they call the round for Apollo Creed, but it's like they don't even make that like what happened, but it's like that's not even the focus of the movie
no.
anymore. Like you don't care.
Well, you're like, also like at the end of the match, you hear Apollo, or as the last bell rings, Apollo says there won't be a rematch because he's mad at Rocky for actually taking him the full 15 rounds. Jurgens gets on the microphone. He announces that there's been a split decision, which means the judges don't all agree on who won the race.
Yeah.
So there's 3 judges, and so some of them are for Rocky and some of them are for Apollo. Adrian gets to Rocky, and they like declare their love for each other. And you barely hear in the background that Apollo Creed is announced as retaining the heavyweight title. You like basically have to rewind it to hear that. You don't. So
Yeah.
you don't. They don't make it explicit that Apollo won the match, but it doesn't matter. So they freeze frame on Rocky and Adrian, and credit. So,
That's the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, won Best Picture, Best Editing, Best Director. So yeah, this is
And deserved it. Truly
yeah.
one of the
Well, I mean, I think Network's a way better movie, but could be time. But and even also this movie, I don't know, Network's a timeless movie in a completely different way, and then like this is a timeless movie in kind of a standard way where it's just like, well, it's sports and people understand that, even though this totally a movie of its time. It's an underdog story, and that kind of transcends everything. So,
yeah.
Because I mean, there's a simple thing with like, you ever see Cinderella Man, which is kind of just a different version. It's it's Rocky in a different time period, but it's cool. This guy broke his arm, so he's like lifting heavy bags with the other arm, and like he got stronger with one arm, and then like went back to boxing. But yeah, this is a huge success because also it was a very inexpensive movie to make, so I made a lot of money off this movie. And then went on to go do franchises. So, which I'm like, when is Rocky 2? Because I also like know this as like an '80s franchise, but that's also probably because I've seen Rocky 4 the most. Because that was basically what if it was American versus Russians, but it's Rocky? So. Rocky 2, come in. Not Rock 2. Oh, 79. So yeah, it's on the border. So
Yeah, it's right there.
but yeah, Rocky 2 is like the rematch between him and Apollo, which is also a good movie. I believe Rocky wins the match that time, and then Rocky 3 is like sort of where Rocky loses himself and he's successful and spends lots of money and stuff, and then Clubber Lang, which was Mr. T, like beats the shit out of him in like the first half of the movie, and then he comes back and beats him for the title, I believe.
Yeah.
I think also Hulk Hogan's in that movie.
I think so.
He has a wrestling match with Rocky, but Rocky's in boxing gear trying to box Hulk Hogan. And of course Rocky 4 is him versus Drago.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's always funny things like one of the trivia I know about this, which I don't know if it's true or not, is that so I don't know if the boxing's not really focused on in this movie, so there's a lot of like old timey kind of like swing and a miss, like you swing and then you throw your head to the right to indicate the punch, but if it's shot wrong, it's just somebody swinging at nothing and another person reacting to it, which you can clearly see in some of this stuff. And so Sylvester Stallone wanted it more accurate, so I think in the third one, or he kept like, no, let's really box, and then he'd always get something broken every time somebody actually really punched him. And I believe Dolph Lundgren like hurt him the most, like broke his ribs or something when they like tried to legitimately box for a scene. And then Rocky Five's kind of the downturn. I remember like almost nobody likes that movie because that's where it's like Rocky becomes the trainer, and then he like has a street fight with the guy at the end. um, and then there's Rocky Balboa, that's where like he wins the title and reconciles with his son when he's like 60 or something. Um, and then he became then he had the Creed franchise, which he's in that, where he's like dying of cancer. Which I know, like Stallone had like such an ego, where he thought he could just like kind of like take over those movies. Like, what if Rocky gets better and he fights again? It's like no, these movies aren't about you. So, I think he's like has a guest appearance in two, but by the third one, he's out of the franchise because it's not about him anymore. So, um, but yeah, Rocky, a long-standing franchise.
Oh yeah, great movie.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Oh, did you have any other trivia you wanted to bring out that you did research on?
No, I really gotta wrap
Okay.
it up here. So
Well, Center of Problem Space contained the supercut of scenes from the improv collection of Verhoeven. Like, Nathan, what scene from this movie are we shoving into space?
oh, we gotta do the second training montage, of course.
Oh, okay.
That's the only thing that makes sense.
Gonna fly now.
Oh yeah.
Isn't some of the words like working hard now? Like that's like half the lyrics are like working hard now and gonna fly now. Like that's all.
Yeah, it sounds like work. It sounds like we're gonna build a cabinet or something. I had the subtitles on too, and it just seemed kind of odd, but yeah, it worked in the movie. It worked.
Although I did see a weird selection for subtitles for this because I saw it at Amazon. There was like, oh no, there's different audio selection, and one of them is like dialogue boosted audio track,
I don't know what that is.
which I'm guessing. Well, it's like, well, yeah, there's been a weird turnaround where like a lot of people nowadays, especially young people, just watch stuff with subtitles. Which I do that because I want clarity, so I don't have to keep rewinding stuff, so we can
Yeah.
get through this, like get through the watching the movie faster. Because I'm gonna end up like, well, now this is down a research hole, and so I do that for that. But now it just seems like all of Hollywood cannot mix their sound properly enough for dialogue, and so now people just watch with subtitles just for the clarity when it's really should Hollywood should work to make their dialogue sound better.
Yeah.
And so I'm guessing that's an option where it's dialogue boosted volume, which I haven't looked into that because it might sound super weird to me, but or it could just be like, oh yeah, this is normal. Um, you also find us at Letterbox username VHE. 1 out of 5 stars. What does Rocky get?
I would give it 5 for
Okay.
sure.
Classic movie.
Yes.
Um, you can find us at verhoeveneffect.com. There we have listener support. You can support us at a monthly stipend of either 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99. Cancel anytime. You can also rate our podcast on whatever platform of your choice. You can rate us whatever you want, but the only thing the algorithm listens to is the highest rating. Remember, you control the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't control you. You can also find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect, Facebook at Verhoeven Effect, and you find us on YouTube at American Greed Factory. You can watch both this and that show live and unedited. And we also have t-shirts at belowthecollar.com/Greed Factory for 2 more weeks. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
Goodbye, America.